and welcome to Spotlight, recorded here live on Grapple Patreon. I'm Benno.
And I'm JP.
I was going to say I didn't know where to cut in there, JP, and it'd be disrespectful, but we were already here. We've got past that point here.
Oh, we have.
Welcome to Spotlight.
Particularly
Jesus
because
Christ.
my original plan, the thing I wanted to do was while that music was playing, it was just like an overlay of some of these images, but it didn't work out with the overlay thing. But we could just share them now and talk through.
The memes have been insane. Like, it has been absolutely like the worst thing that's ever happened is your granddad like find an AI and your mum and dad find an AI. That's the world we live in 2025. Internet is blocked, porn is blocked, VPNs are going to be blocked in the UK, but AI is readily. Did you see fucking Linda McMahon like fell for Linda Hogan, got Freudian slip there, fell for like there was an AI video of like Brooke, her own daughter, like having a go at Terry, which we are going to talk about today in all seriousness. We talked about it on the weekend show. We've had a few shows we talked about it this weekend, but of course we're going to talk about Hogan. But like, yeah, there was like a video of like just having a go at a dad, and like Linda Hogan shared it on her Facebook, and all the comments are just all people going, "That's AI, that's definitely not real, that's not what your daughter sounds like, very clearly somebody has edited this," and she just left it up. Probably just thinks it's real. I mean, that's just the world we're in at this point. But yeah, I'm assuming there's a lot of Hogan and Paddington, a lot of Hogan and Ozzy, all kinds of because that's the thing, mate. If you die and you go to heaven, what you want to do is you want to hang around with the wrestlers you worked with for 6 months in the 1980s, like your family or nothing. Saying that, maybe with Terry, maybe that would be legit.
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's like this one here of Hogan meeting Ozzy Osbourne and the cast of Peaky Blinders, which has not really been explained to me at all. Why this is a thing. I didn't make this one. I wish I fucking did. I didn't make any of these, by the way. There is one. If you have a look at Frank Bruno on X, you'll see there's one. There's an AI video where he goes, "I'm not sure when this was taken." It was like, "Mate, you're in it," and it isn't real. Yeah. It's clearly AI. Like you can tell with Terry on this. And there's, I mean, and you know, you look at something like this one here, which is a very strange one, really.
This is the one for audio listeners, the one with fucking Hogan and Eddie Guerrero playing. I think is it PlayStation N6? No, it's a SNES pad, that isn't it? I can't quite see it. It's a bit small on my screen. But the telly's the wrong way around. Nice one, AI. It's a bit like the way it can't do fingers. And then you've got like Bray Wyatt as the Fiend just sat there with them. Like, yeah, of course, this is what's happening. Up above or down below this week?
Yeah, with Andre sat beside them, and they're playing Legends of Wrestling as well. So they're not even playing a good one on here, are they? Like it's not even a great one. But I mean, some of the other ones that I found like sort of like reasonably. There's this one, which is which is the second one that involves Scott Hall on there as well. I'm not sure Randy would be kicking him down the stairs, wouldn't he? And as much as Scott Hall...
he seems to be in a lot of these. I think people have misunderstood their relationship. That's not Scott Hall, by the way. He's very much wearing what looks like tribute to Scott Hall gear, kind of reminiscent of the gear he wore at Bash at the Beach 96, which we did review this weekend and in this strange Hogan weekend. But like, yeah, like that's just another bloke. That's just a bloke with black hair, mate. That looks like I don't know, someone from
Rick Bogner. He's dead.
Yeah,
isn't it? So like, is he?
No, I
think so.
R.I.P. in peace.
I know. It's just because I want to say something really bad. It sounds like that sounds like it's reasonably likely that would be the case on there as well. This one doesn't even look much like Scott Hall, but I saw Ian Andrew Dice Clay, who's always amazing at this type of stuff, say it looks like Hogan's being greeted in by Scott Hall, but Kevin Nash is sad that he's somehow not dead and not being able to go to heaven as well. Which
looks kind of godlike, I reckon, with the grey hair and stuff, you know?
Yeah, exactly. On here, as Charlie does his quite usual, let's break into here as well. And you can hear the crying going on it. Just 1 second, mate. There we go. Yeah, always ends well, doesn't it, with this?
You learn your parents' skills from Hulk as well. I get it.
Well, the only other option is to literally lock me in a room. And then there's the ones that are my.
It would be worse if there was a lock on the inside or the outside of that door. I don't know.
It's on the outside, so like which would create a problem. Here's Hogan and Colonel Tom as well.
Who said that? Who put that?
I don't know. Like, it's an incredible piece of work. I mean, my personal favourite, because, I mean, it involves anything here. Charlie is still grieving Terry's death as well. There's Hogan with Princess Diana, who's gone to visit him, looking rather suspiciously like Mary Magdalene as well.
Why is he again though? Why is he being buried in his ring gear? Why is he in heaven in his ring gear? Why is Randy Savage just walking around in his entrance gear for like WrestleMania 5? I've got many questions, JP.
Mate, why is he in heaven is always like the really big one in all of it. This one
has it been long enough? I guess it has.
I think it's been long enough for this. Why is he sideways in the coffin? I don't know who are these people?
Get the dog in.
Yeah,
it's the new get the badge in, mate. Get the dog in. Again for audio viewers, this is Hogan. Kind of sideways. In his final resting place. Yeah.
It wasn't a cardiac arrest. He was sliced in half in some horrific accident. Only the top half of his body was saved. Will he be buried in red and yellow? Absolutely. Steph is spot on with that. That is.
Yeah, you know what? I take it back. He's probably got a bandana. Honestly, sorry.
Of course he'll have a bandana on. You'd be disappointed if he didn't. And then, I mean, I think to finish it all off as well, like, I mean, it'd be good to add one of a real picture of the Hulkster, like one that hasn't been altered here as well. And this is Terry out on a night out, what appears to be around Birmingham New Street, I'm assuming here as well.
Wasn't it like Northumberland Police or something? They tweeted this image, didn't they, of like the bloke on the stack? I don't even think he was on a stack too. I think it's just the bloke on a night out, wasn't it? The famous one, the bloke in the yellow t-shirt who just looks a bit like Tell, doesn't he? Looks a bit like Tell.
And exactly, and he's God knows how he feels today as well. I'm assuming he's absolutely fucking destroyed. And if nothing else, Terry in death has brought a lot of us together with these kind of images in there as well. I'm just delighted we managed to get them in.
Maybe I don't know.
That's how we all deal with grief, isn't it? Sometimes it's why we tell dark jokes. It's in order to comprehend big life-changing events, and that's what we've done here. In case anyone is getting upset by it, and if you are getting upset by it,
sorry, Tony Schiavone.
No,
I apologise on behalf.
He wouldn't give up. He'd have laughed at those. He'd have asked who Colonel Tom is, and probably Princess Diana, if we were honest, and Paddington. Maybe he's got grandkids, so
not as big as Grey.
Yeah, maybe he's seen Peaky Blinders. God knows, but yeah, incredible work.
It's been a fucking weekend. Like, obviously, like I say, we covered when the news broke. We covered it on Weekend Show, and obviously, weirdest timing ever. Show's not out yet. It is out on early access for our Kings of the Mountain. But we did Bash at the Beach '96 yesterday. Me, Matty, and Hamlet, which was again delayed from the week before. Like, it's to come out this coming weekend. So like, the timing on that is unbelievable. Obviously, we talked about it on the pre-show as well, like Gareth as well. Like, I feel like at this point in the weekend, I think we've almost kind of got a laugh, but like. Jesus, I still haven't come to. I just still haven't got my head around the entire thing. It is just like that, like fucking that split between knobheads like us who want to laugh at it, and also like I think you have to be kicking and screaming into the segment we're going to do today and talking some positive memories of Terry. I've got plenty. You know, I joked about it on Weekend Show. Before we knew what we knew, and we knew certain things already at that point, but not like the really bad things. I dressed up as Hogan at like Halloween and stuff like that, and like he was like a big part of like the wrestling fandom. So I feel like I can compartmentalize that part and like talk that part. We will have that conversation again, linking back to covering Bash at the Beach with Hamlet and Matty, where it's like, yeah, God, you forget how gigantic, you don't forget it, but it's good to have like the reminder of what are gigantic moments in wrestling, but in my personal fandom that is as well. But like, yeah, also on top of that, it's like, I don't know if you listen to the New York Times Daily, the podcast, like they have like a headlines version. It's a bit like Mike St. Pavivi's audio news, and like the news dump, a bit like that. But like they had like a bit at the end. It was their unfinally story was like, it was 2 days in a row. It was like the death of Ozzy Osbourne, and then it was as many of the meme makers have determined is equal to, like, they had a story on Hogan, and it was literally, this is the New York Times, and they're like, yeah, and finally, Hulk Hogan died, and we had some controversies. no like detail of what those controversies were. I think actually they mentioned steroids, like as if that's the big. Oh, we took some steroids. Like, does anybody at this point give a fuck that any wrestler ever took a steroid? Never mind, fucking terribly. Maybe they're lying about it, and maybe the yes, okay, the trial and obviously the some of the other stuff surrounded it as well, and the dobbing them in on the unions, that type of stuff around that period. But like obviously no mention of like the the tape. I think in fact they mentioned the sex tape as well, without mentioning obviously the racist comments that are on tape. That is the thing that most people are talking about. And it even had that line in it about how when Hogan was the mainstream star that took I think the way it was worded was it took wrestling from its low rent settings to being a mainstream thing. And it was like, I mean, there's some truth in the second part of that statement. Like, yeah, if you want to talk like national promotion, mainstream, that's true. But like, there was a wrestling also before Terry. It did exist. It was, nationally quite massive. There were some gigantic stars, including Hogan himself. Before Hogan became Hogan in the WWF. And it's just like, yeah, I don't know if you've had that same experience seeing it like bleed into like your regular media consumption, and just they never quite get it right, do they? It's like even like the BBC we talked about on Weekend Show, their article was just all over the place with errors and stuff like that. It's just kind of how these things go. It's like Meltzer's been saying all weekend, you can't like the myth and the legend and the reality of who he is have kind of blended together. Like we're going to be talking WWE Unreal today. Like WWE probably would want to happen, and they want to tell the story of the legend as well, rather than the reality of the man himself.
I think that's. I think the thing that's happened is weirdly. You're going to hear his name mentioned a few, but Donald Trump. It's this Trumpian thing that Hogan did, but for much longer throughout the entirety of his career, of just flooding the zone with shit. And so people are just like, well, what stuff do we pick? What stuff do we choose? Mainstream media outlets feel comfortable talking about things like Gawker, and even to a certain extent, like the racism. But talking about sex tape, Gawker, all of those things, that feels like very much in the media wheelhouse. Talking about politicking in wrestling, I think their minds just go, but it's fake. So, like, how can there be politicking? Somebody choose who wins or loses at the end. It's not a non-story. And you go, well, actually, no. Like, that's the thing. There has to be a reason for who needs to win and who needs to lose. And Hogan's was because I'm Hulk Hogan. And they can't comprehend those types of stories. So a lot of the like the mainstream, and they don't want to dedicate sort of too much time to it. They want to talk as much about and he was at the Republican convention. They're not going to talk about like in terms of the ups and downs. And it's very much, unfortunately, that bloody narrative about wrestling being taken out of smoky film-filled rooms into arenas and stadiums, and you go, well, no, wrestling has been in stadiums for a very long time. Wrestling has been in big arenas.
It was things for like seedy old men and not for like kids. It was like, no, lots of kids went to wrestling shows in the 70s and early 80s before Hogan, but okay.
Yeah, and they
before
don't.
That, of course.
And they can't like, and that's the thing. It would require them to have. And unfortunately, when you see like a Dave Meltzer going on like a News Nation, and I watched the clip from that, he's got like 4 minutes to summarize the career, but also responding to questions from a host who doesn't really know that much about it, but they feel they need to answer it because, as far as they're concerned, this just comes under Americana and pop culture rather than wrestling per se. So it's like the whole context of it, they're never going to get. And, say someone like Voices of Wrestling, for example, who they spoke for 3 hours about it. Like, very, very, we're not doing that today. But we're like speaking about it absolutely in depth.
I wanted to.
Stuff.
JP doesn't want to.
Oh,
we will. No, we'll do a full Hogan show at some point.
Yeah.
We will. And obviously, like I say, we did the Bash at the Beach show yesterday as well as weekend shows. Also, probably covered that as far as like hours talked about. I mean, but we've got to talk. It's like we said it like it's the biggest story that's not Vince. If it was Vince McMahon, I think that's the only. This is the one B to that when you talk like wrestler deaths and you talk that coverage. So I'm not shocked that it's like getting that wider coverage. Again, as I joked about, you are gonna get your random relatives and friends going, "Oh, have you heard about this?" or "Can you believe this?" Like I said over the weekend, I was getting here in Vietnam, getting like fellow people traveling out here asking me questions about it as well, and asking me like what I thought, and not really knowing the other side of it. And that's it's like Nash came out this week, didn't he? And he's like, "Oh, now's not the time," and it's like, all right, fair enough. And then like in his next sentence, he was like, "And also, I when people had come to him, they'd be giving him grief like even before he died. It's like, so you're mad at them too. So basically, there was no point that we were supposed to be holding Terry to account as well. There was a nugget of truth in what he said. It is pointless now. You're not going to change. The man. He had 10 years from the again the worst thing he ever said. Maybe was caught on tape, or one of the worst things he ever said was caught on tape, and all he was ever bothered about was the fact that it was caught on tape. It was never the thing that he said and the effects that had. That you're still seeing. Like I say, there's people out there in our audience as well who don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear a Hulk Hogan tribute. They don't want to hear like the great memories and stuff like that. They don't want to hear like the the fake version of the story with him. He is boiled down to those really bad moments that are also true. Like we keep saying over the weekend, it's not but, it's and. Hulk Hogan is Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan said and did terrible things. And that's just the truth of the matter, isn't it? I'm sure it's obviously, as Tony Schiavone said, the people who are close to him and his family and stuff like that, obviously they won't want to be hearing stuff like that at this point. That's totally understandable. Eric Bischoff, totally understandable. I've got the heart of fucking stone, JP, but like I watched the video Bischoff did where it must have been for his podcast, I think it was, where he was talking about like, when he found out the news, and like he said he was like, he's about to text Nick Hogan, and like he put Fox on and the news, it was just on the telly. Like it's just like, imagine that, like that's just, can't imagine like that being how you find out like news like that about like clearly one of your best friends, or like there were all kinds of tributes this weekend, including from AEW, and they posted the Schiavone tribute on YouTube as well, so that should stop some of the grifters. But like New Japan doing tributes and WWE, doing their tributes with Jimmy Hart himself there again, like did genuinely put a bit of a lump in my throat. I know everything I know, and I believe everything I believe about the man himself, but yes, the people close to him are going to feel like that, especially somebody like, Jimmy Hart, who's unbelievable himself, at this, grand old age he is, still trucking, yeah, there's all of those parts of it are absolutely true and absolutely valid. I think that's, got to be said.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the thing is that we're talking about here. It's a complex legacy, and that's not a justification of the bad things he did, but we are talking about, certainly in terms of mainstream, like wrestling that we would think of it, westernized wrestling, and the only other person would possibly come into the mix is Inoki, but that's very much sort of like local to Japan because he was a politician in Japan, and the various other things like meeting basically bloody war criminals on what appeared to be like a yearly basis as well. But with Hogan, you're talking about one of the two most like integral figures in wrestling history, and the other one is completely tied up with him, and one needs the other in order for them to reach the levels that they reach. And I would always think that Hogan is the one that would reach much more of the mainstream audience, as we've seen with a lot of the coverage. Vince is the one that's more important for wrestling. And while it would obviously be covered by a mainstream outlet, it isn't necessarily part of that. And there is a reason why he was a big star. And there is there are a whole, that's why it gets kind of complex. You can't ignore the impact that he had on wrestling to merely focus on the kind of negative side of it. It's an easier thing to do. And trust me, we will talk about that. But it's a complicated legacy because in many ways he set the foundations for what every other wrestler following it has kind of ended up following in some way, shape, or form. Even a Steve Austin, who's very much not a Hulk Hogan style character, but he exists because he's the antithesis of a Hogan style hero. Yeah, exactly. In terms of like money made, I mean, Austin is the biggest. Like you would argue, although then there's things where how much would The Rock come up into it, but then that's to do with films and other forms of media and other stuff like that as well. But within wrestling, and so this is like it's complicated. I mean, we tried to summarize it down on here: the good, the bad, the ugly, and then the lies.
Yeah. And that's all Hogan, isn't it? That's you split it. You can split them into those individual. Like I've literally been watching, like to the point you just mentioned there. I watched like a video where somebody was asking him to do like his own Mount Rushmore of wrestling, and you can tell every bone in his body wants to be Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea, Hollywood Hogan, and what's the one? Terry Boulder or whatever he was called way back when. He just wants to name himself.
Sterling Golden.
Sterling Golden. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, like that's what he wants to say, but he does actually say Rock and Austin because like even he recognizes the money drawn at that point as well. But like It's one of those, like, somebody said to us on the Discord, like, he's gonna do, like, stop the presses next month as far as shows go, do like a Hulk Hogan deep cut. We would literally be here like 30 hours. Like, we've covered a lot of Hogan's career, obviously, in various shows. Like, again, WrestleMania 5 was one of Garrett's big loves as far as like a deep cut goes, and obviously we've covered like WrestleManias and SummerSlams and individual feuds and moments and stuff like that. But like the NWO's one that's on the docket that we're gonna cover. Like I say, me, Hamflet, and Matty did a job doing the Bash at the Beach '96, and that's 3 hours on its own just talking about that. Like that's the length and breadth of it, isn't it? It's like it's not even. It's like we tried it with Steve once, and we found out it was pretty much impossible. And his Steve's career is about 12 years. Add on Hogan's, which is like even Matty admitted on that Bash at the Beach show. Like I remember having an argument with him years ago, who's the biggest star, Steve or Hogan? And it's like, yeah, you can talk money drawing, but if you talk money drawing, like technically, I think The Miz might be one of the biggest money drawing wrestlers of all time because of the era we're in now and the guaranteed money and stuff like that. But if you're talking, back in the day when ticket sales mattered and merch and all of that, you could draw comparisons straight to the person, then yeah, it's Hogan, it's it's Austin, it's Rock, pretty much is kind of where you are when it comes to that, as far as like big figures. And like, yeah, even if you want to talk the business of it and like his his success there as like the most successful wrestler ever, I think even Matty would give it to him as like the one who drove 2 boom periods, and you could do a podcast on each of those boom periods. I mean, like I said, we need to talk the ugly, we need to talk like the terrible stuff as well, we need to talk the lies, we need to talk the bad as well. But like you said, we need to talk what you could argue is the good, or we need to at least talk are there good memories? Like I think Hogan and Triple H, there's like a tie at the top for you for most hated figures in pro wrestling, and occasionally the Young Bucks, depending on your mood on the given day. Like, are there, like, because I can point to loads, obviously. Like, again, I think it's my age. I think Garrett listened to that Bash at the Beach show and he's fuming because the 3 of us were. I wasn't, but the other 2 were buried early 90s WCW. I love the early 90s WCW, but we grew up on what we grew up on, and Hogan is what I grew up on. I'm a 41-year-old man, and my childhood was the early 90s. It's kind of the late 80s, but not really. It was the early 90s watching the late 80s, so like that's where I kind of tie in. But is there anything you can like pinpoint as like a positive, or like a positive memories or bits where you were like, what I liked Hogan there, call it the 80s, call it NWO era. I'm guessing it wasn't when he ruined WCW for you. Maybe is WWE come back, TNA maybe, that could be down your alley. Like, are there positive Hogan memories for the JP Houlihan?
Oh, there are positive. I mean, there is actually the thing I went back and watched, which is I don't know if it's just kind of like a strange one to go to, is I went back and watched his match at WrestleMania 18 with The Rock. I just wanted to kind of, because that for me, that like kind of encapsulates, he's up against The Rock kind of at his peak, and he's more over than him. And that's fucking kind of incredible. Like, if there is a guy who is able to kind of like draw people in, and you've mentioned it already, like, not only are they 2 boom periods, but it's like the first boom period is entirely on his back as a face. The second boom period kickstarts because, and it's funny when people hearing about who the other rooms of the third man would have been at Bash at the Beach, and I haven't had a chance to listen to your review of it. But one of the things,
spoiler, Mabel runs in at the end, mate. It's dramatic, honestly, unbelievable. Michael Buff gives him an intro and everything.
That would have been. There's a lot of sliding doors moment with Tell as well in this. And do you know what the other problem is? And sorry, this is a real aside, and I feel daft saying it. The fact his real name's Terry just makes me laugh, because we've done all the double Terry film clubs. Exactly. It's just like, I think of Terry as just being like a British bloke's name, let alone Hulk Hogan's real name. But the other one is he did it as a heel. So he did it like, and they're the 2 big boom periods. And then that Monday Night Wars forces WWF to get their shit together, which then kickstarts the Attitude Era and taking risks that they'd been completely averse and moving away from the blueprint that they had, that then creates and then ends up with them going public, which then ends up in the situation that we see today as this just monolith of a money-making machine. Like, all of those things you can trace back to him, and he deserves the credit. There's a reason why the bloke headlined the first 8 WrestleManias. It's not the title match that headlines WrestleMania 8.
And 9, technically.
Oh, yeah.
we covered that this year, which has been the year of... again, weirdly on the Patreon, the year of Terry. Covered a couple of his his films as well. Yeah, that was always a thing for me. As a kid, it was like it'd be, you get your Silver Vision tapes and you'd open them up and you'd be looking at the other tapes you wanted. And I was wrestling OCD. I just thought it was so cool that Hogan was on the cover of all the WrestleManias, and then WrestleMania 9 comes and goes in real time, and he's on the fucking cover for that as well. Again, good and bad of Terry for reasons, Terry being Terry, and reasons that I'm sure Gareth wasn't crying tears this weekend. When he did what he did to Brett with the Yoko stuff at Mania 9. But like you say, we start there with like the 80s. Like for me, like that is the gold period of me watching wrestling. It's again, I'm a man of a certain age. I've got no real love for like WrestleMania 1 or 2. And if I say it quietly, and we slayed some some of those what do you call it, golden cows, sacred cows on the Bash at the Beach show. There's a few of those conversations in there. WrestleMania 3 was never my WrestleMania. It was never my Hogan WrestleMania. I get it. They play again WWE propaganda. They play the fucking body slam all over, and sell those numbers as being legitimate, and all of the mythology that comes around it. Because that's another thing I'm sure gets mentioned in every bit of news coverage. Oh, he's also the bloke that body slammed Andre the Giant. Oh, and in the Terry's Lies segment, Andre the Giant died 8 days later or whatever fucking bullshit he talked about. But that's not my Terry. My Terry is like, it's after that. It's to a point, WrestleMania 4, but more to a point WrestleMania 5. Obviously the Savage stuff, which we covered in detail on the deep cut, like one of the great stories in wrestling history with Liz and the Mega Powers exploding and all of that. Like I had all of those tapes, loved every moment of that. Talking like SummerSlam '88 and talking like those shows that would very often have Terry on the cover, but that's a big one that still had even with my setup for podcasting when we first started, my until again the news my SummerSlam '88 tape was pride of place for that. And like even Warrior WrestleMania 6, like that's another one. Like it's like again I included that in the Big Match Gym podcast, which was kind of tongue-in-cheek but also genuinely how I felt. Like I stand by my horrendous take that Ultimate Warrior has better big matches than a lot of your favorite wrestlers, and we drilled that down to about 6 matches, and that's about the width and breadth of it. But like they do exist, and obviously the Rude matches are in there and the Savage matches are in there, but it's the Hogan match, like you say, a lot of parallels. We can talk later Hogan as well, to WrestleMania X8 as well. But like that, to me, for a very long time, was my favorite match in wrestling history. And again, I love the mythology around it as well, because as you get older, you start to learn, oh yeah, Hogan really was there making sure the attention was fucking on him, wasn't it? He made it look like he was putting Warrior over, or in kid terms, Warrior was better because he beat him and he was going to be like the new star. But of course he made sure all eyes were on Terry. Of course he did, right through to like obviously the Rumble dragging Sid Justice out of it, which was like the first moment for me as a fan where I was like, oh, I'm probably watching the version of the tape where it's sweetened and the fans aren't quite booing as loud as they were in the arena, but kind of going, oh, is Hogan supposed to be the goodie here? Feels like he's the baddie a little bit. Feels like Ric Flair might have been the goodie here at Rumble 91. But like, I kind of had that like experience as like a young fan, like, loving it on face value and loving all of those gigantic stories and moments, of which there's 400 more as well. But also, as you get older, finding like the behind the scenes maneuvering of it, and the bad and the ugly when it comes to Hogan, and the things he would get up to, finding that fascinating as well. Like there's a reason we keep going back to that period and doing shows, even though our audience are too young, it feels like, to appreciate some of those older ones. Like it's because we've all got that. I think even you and Gareth have got like that soft spot for that period.
Oh yeah, I mean, because it's our childhood. And we have to, it's almost like it's baked into the cake. And watching wrestling felt like you've summarized it beautifully, but it's almost like it was a special event. Getting those videotapes, being able to rent them out, was just like it was like, oh my God, they've got WrestleMania 4 and it's 2 videos, so it must be incredible. Spoiler alert, it isn't. He doesn't headline that, but he is on the cover, isn't he? Because it's not like it's DiBiase and Randy on there as well. So actually, I've made a mistake when I said he's headlined all those WrestleManias.
But he's on the cover. He made sure of that, mate. Get his face on the poster,
But he was always like, the problem is that you kind of knew he was the draw, but that kind of rah patriotism, it's never worked for me. Like it isn't. Like we're not Americans, so it's lost on us. Like somewhat like that, like hardcore. You try more than most as well. between you, Matty, and Mickey Hamflet, like all of you are trying to like honestly, it's those American sodas.
Between the three of us, we're one American man.
You are like. Who you voting for? Then there's the real test. But like on top of that as well, like because I didn't have that kind of patriotism. His character was always sort of very one-dimensional and rote for me. But there was also a thing at the same time which I could always understand why he was such a big figure and why he was sorry, I'm having to push a child out of the door. Why he's such an important figure in wrestling history. You got why, because this is the bloke who was on top and the crowd are going batshit for him and they're all wearing his t-shirts. With the best one, they're not wearing Mr. Perfect and Rick Rude t-shirts at that point in 1988, 1989.
Was there a point where you were like a contrarian Hogan fan? Like a lot of people will point to Hogan in Japan in this period and later as well, which again is a mixtape we threatened to do, and we covered a couple of Hogan in Japan matches now, so we're getting there with it. But like like late 70s Hogan, early 80s Hogan, the original WWF run, is that more in JP's wheelhouse, or like you say the New Japan stuff, with Abbey and stuff like that?
Him versus Tenryu in 85 and Andre in 83, a better Andre match with that in.
I mean, the working boots on, mate. That's the myth, isn't it? That's an idea. That's not a WWF propagator, Mick. That's an IWC propagator, Mick. Terry was fantastic in the 80s. What a worker! He really had his working boots on during that period. It was that's allegedly what people say. I don't know how true it is.
Yeah, exactly. As Charlie is just absolutely hell bent on gate crashing this for the entirety of the show. It's because he's absolutely fucked and he needs to go to sleep. That's another story for another time.
I know that feeling.
But like, oh god, yeah. But that's always given the hours you're running. But this is you've mentioned like there's bits of him in Japan, and it felt like that was a hipster version of Hogan to me. Even back then, it was like, oh, he was big in Japan, and it wasn't like the kind of like half-hearted insult that it became for a while.
His finish wasn't a leg drop; it was a lariat. He was a proper worker,
and he wrestled more interesting people, and he had to do more. And the AWA run, I've seen very relatively little, other than to say I remember watching Rocky 3, and I remember watching that as very young, and it was like, okay, I'd already liked wrestling at that point because of like a world of sport and whatnot. I was like, well, who the fuck is this guy? Like this guy is clearly a big deal. And then you're seeing like the kind of like the fact in AWA, he was a massive star already. And these are things I'm thinking we need to put on the docket, really. Hogan in
AWA would be good coverage. I know Matty's big into that.
Yeah, Hogan in Japan. But like more of a like kind of into that like early 80s, like just to get like that idea of how big he was there. Those were points. I won't lie, when he signed with TNA, there was the part of me of going, maybe he's learnt his fucking lesson, and maybe I'm there with crossed fingers as well. Maybe this is going to be the time that he actually goes, no, I'm going to elevate this company. That he maybe had points in the game, so he thought, well, it's in his own interest to do something here, and he's not going to be wrestling, so that could be the thing that lifted him. And it just sort of proved, no, I've got no ideas, and I'm going to still make everything about him. Although, as we've covered when we talk about aces and eights, it goes off in some fucking weird and wacky directions. So and even when he went to WCW, I love WCW. When he first went there, I was like thinking, well, I kind of want this to succeed, because I don't want WCW to go away. And there's a big sliding door, man. What happens to WCW? Does it just die earlier? Does it get to a point where it's just never making any money? It barely does enough on TV. The other big stars, Savage probably doesn't go there if he's not, well, Savage, what happens to someone like him? Does he end up there? Hall and Nash, does it have the kind of impact? But
it always seemed foreign to me, like I'm in WCW, because like to kind of keep going, like for me, like again, loving him in the 80s, still loving him in the early 90s, but kind of understanding, like I say, with like the Sid moment, and understanding with like the way things are going with the new generation stuff. Like we covered it, when we talked WrestleMania 9 this year. He looks out of place because it's skinny Terry, and it's like I'm being told that like we're already being told at that point that Brett and Sean and the younger guys are the ones you should be paying attention to, and he's like, he feels like this old relic already in 1993. 2023. You say that about WCW, like it was the right move for him, very clearly, you know, from a monetary point of view as well, but like reputationally too as well. And the right move for WCW, it's a bit like for all the negatives we talk about the current TNA and WWE relationship, it's like you can understand like there's a nugget of it though, but it's like the houses are up, you know. It's worth you know. As much as they should read a history book, as Platt says there in the chat, you know, there's some positives to working with the devil there, and it's like with WCW, you know, working with Hogan at that point, it's like there are plenty of negatives, and like you're chasing off a lot of like your long-term fans. Like I imagine, you know, you and a Gareth and getting frustrated because Jim Duggan is all of a sudden, you know, the mid card. Here comes Honky Tonk Man. Here come all Hogan's mates, and Steve Austin's on the outs, and you know, all of your favorites are kind of pushed out. But it's understandable why WCW would do that, and there's no denial that it works. You know, it doesn't work from a creative point of view for me, brother. Obviously, we could talk the NWO, but like the early version of Terry that again we've covered the points in it. WCW, it just, like I say, doesn't fit. He looked out of place in WWF at that point, and then in WCW, he looks even more out of place because like we're trying to force like an 80s kind of routine down the throats of fans who, you know, there are new fans coming who want it, and there are some fans, you know, younger fans, probably people around my age at the time who want it as well, and then the other half of the audience who don't want it at all. And like, you know, obviously it's going over like old topics, but like the types of stuff that, you know, he's doing there with like the Dungeon of Doom and like those early nitros where, you know, like he says in the Bash at the Beach 96 promo, the nitros there when he's getting booed, you know, that reaction that he was getting a little bit in the early 90s in the WWF does kind of follow him into WCW, and it's like, yeah, that's a period where even for me as someone who does enjoy Sway's Hogan's career, it's tough to pull out like any positives.
So when he goes first into WCW, it's funny. It's not, if he'd just gone into WCW doing the same shtick, I would have expected it. It was the fact all those other fucking freeloading bastards and sycophants turned up. That was the thing. That was like, I found upsetting. It was like
Brutus.
And Andy,
him Brutus being a bit Starcade. Andy says it there in the chat. Exactly.
Scandalous. Yeah. And he headlines one pay-per-view against Vader, and it's all because Vader hit Vader's too hard, and it's like, mate, you're not a professional tickler. It's fucking wrestling. There's going to be some physical contact. But it was because we weren't getting, like, Hogan moved to a new environment, and yeah, it's the same shtick, but at least it's against a whole different cast of characters. Hogan versus the Horsemen in kind of extended ways. Instead, it was just like Hogan beats Flair again and again and again and again.
Or Vader, and one or the other.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, it's the same lads. And it's how you end up with, like, we haven't got Warrior, but here's Timu Warrior in Renegade. And, you know, and it's all of his mates coming in to the detriment and getting rid of all of the people I kind of liked who are like underneath it. So it didn't have that kind of novelty value that you hoped it had when he initially signed. And he went, because it would have been, and then eventually leads to a Warrior style match, which would have been Hogan and Sting. You know, this is talking without sort of like NWO, but this is the kind of stuff I was thinking when he signed. And it's just not how things panned out at all. He was very much like, no, this is where I'm going to turn WCW into this weird knockoff of WWF. And then that's all that kind of was at that point in time. And like I say, all it did is that it delayed the reactions because it was in front of a different audience who, let's face it, as much as I love early 90s WCW, they were looking for something more, something a bit grander. And they recognised it was very much like quite a distant number two to WWF. And it was like, well, here's a guy who might well take us there, but you're making, as you said, like a deal with the devil on that front.
That's what's interesting to me as well. It's like, you know, doing Benno and Hampler kind of puts that into perspective as well. Like WCW, like, again, I'm a kid. You know, I like to think I got better taste 10 years later when I become an ROH guy. But, you know, WWF, I was almost Matty, you know, at that point. WCW kind of, to me, just did feel second rate. And I enjoyed it when I watched, like, the old tapes and stuff like that. But it kind of felt like, especially in the early Nitro years, it just felt uncool. It felt like Dungeon of Doom versus the Four Horsemen, like, feud on the loop, is my version of what I remember from the mid-90s. And I know it's not exactly that, and they do eventually put that to bed when Nash and Hall come in, and you know, but even then, like when the NWO takes off, and like I say, that it shouldn't be understated, like that turn, it's one of those things that does get talked up. But watching it back this weekend, like it feels like time stands still when Hogan turns. It is the type of thing as a kid you could, despite the fact, yes, he'd worked heel in his career, you'd not seen it on like that, WWF, WCW level. It wasn't something that we, necessarily seen, or at least WWF, post 84. Like, it's an unbelievable moment to get to see and to get to do. But like, it also, like, with Nash and Hall coming in and stuff like that, it's the perfect time for it, because like the lame WCW that Hogan's like kind of half like responsible for, it almost like, I almost feel like I turned into like a big WCW fan in the mid-90s, and it was almost like I like the NWO, I like Sting. I didn't like Hogan, but like I was, obviously fascinated by the entire thing. Also pushed the cruisers, enjoyed all that stuff as well. But like, it was almost like, yeah, this is good, and the other stuff that's shit is the reason the NWO exists. The fact that Public Enemy is still on the show, and the fact that the Four Horsemen of the Dungeon of Doom and all the lame mid-card WCW white bread baby faces are still on the show, and not understanding from an older head point of view very clearly, like that was not exactly the best thing to do. It made all your baby faces look like geeks, because the NWO were the baddies, and they were also the cool guys on the roster as well. But like, that only existed, I think it only worked because there was that contrast, and because it wasn't necessarily WCW that got cool, it was the NWO that got cool, and Sting, and a couple of offshoots like a DDP and such, but for the most part it was that. And like, yeah, that was the winning formula for like a short period, but there's a reason that those eventually flame out as a formula as well. But like, Hogan is the match that lights it. It's all surrounding Hogan. It's like, I kind of said it on that Bash at the Beach review, like, I don't even think he's good at it, like, as a heel in this period. Like, I don't know if that's a hot take or a controversial take. I don't think his promos are good. Obviously, his matches are bad, but they've always been bad. And, like, everything about him's a bit tryhard. You can even see it in the initial turn. It's like, he doesn't really know. He knows what to do, but he also seems a bit uncomfortable in his skin trying to do it. And, like, Scott Hall used to always say that, like, when they do, like, those cool NWO vignettes where they're throwing catchphrases out and stuff like that. I was like, that was because if we left Terry on his own, he'd talk for 25 minutes, and like, it'd just be shit that we couldn't use, so we cut him down and make it cool. But like, something about Terry being a bit uncool was kind of the antidote to how cool the whole NWO was. It still allowed him to be like a proper heel on top, that like, you cheered Nash, you cheered Hall, you cheered some of the other guys in NWO who were actually cool, but Hogan was still a proper baddie at the top of the card. And as you said earlier, was the tempo, like, the surrounding that entire boom. Like, it had to be him. It couldn't have been Luger, it couldn't have been Sting, it couldn't have been whoever could have been the third man. It had to be Hogan. And yeah, for better or worse, and a lot of it's worse, a lot of it's bad. The stuff that Hogan gets up to on Nitro and the pay-per-views with Piper and stuff like that at that period, like, it's the biggest ingredient of it outside of Nash, Hall and Sting, I'd say.
That's it, isn't it? It's like, it's brilliant casting, even though you're not casting someone who is particularly good in the role per se. Like, I know that seems like a really strange dichotomy between them, but it sort of hits what you say, which is, he isn't like this amazing promo, and he's never going to come across as cool. But in order for this to work, and in order for it to feel gigantic and momentous, and obviously playing into the idea of, like, who is more WWF than Hogan? And that's the thing that I know Schiavone would mention on TV and go, maybe he's been a spoil all along. And it's like, yeah. And it kind of has
who
to
knows
be
more
him.
about that place than me? I think that's one of the lines in his promo.
Exactly. And this is the thing. So he's like, it's captivating to watch because we're all obviously in completely new territory with something like this. And it's like it's him doing an angle that isn't cartoonish as well. So there's this kind of novelty value, because we had seen... Yeah, he does. And he does try as well. But we'd seen the formula, and we'd seen the formulaic matches. And it's like, well, now something has to change, at least, in order for this to be somewhat successful. And for them, like, it works for a period of time. But in classic, and this is where we get into the bad, like, the problem is he never knows, right, my time is up on this, and we need to move this forward and everything else. Which, for a guy who had points in the pay-per-views, never made sense that he couldn't see that bigger picture. Because he'd go, no, mate, if you carry this on, you're going to fucking make shitloads of money, and you'll just be on the upper mid-card, but you'll still be making a shit ton of money because of the...
That's not going to work for Terry, brother.
No, that's
no
it.
chance.
And it's the ego.
You stay at home and let them do pay-per-views without him. But if he's on the show, he's going to be in a position. Like, and obviously, like you say, it flames out, and obviously the Wolfpack in Hollywood is another thing, like period we definitely want to cover at some point. And again, you got your cool Wolfpack, and you got Hogan knocking around with Horace Hogan and Vince and all that. Although he's smart enough to maneuver himself away and get involved in the Wolfpack and stuff. And obviously, tail end of WCW doesn't. It's probably something we'll cover one day. But I imagine Matty's got a lot of love for is it Funby FU Bud Hogan during that late period, and obviously like I say that the NWO reunion and then disbanding of it, and obviously he does a bit of yellow and red in there as well, which is obviously the wall, all of that stuff. Actually, now that I'm talking about, I think I do actually want to go back and do it. Who drove the Hummer, and we could cover that entire version of WCW. I think I'd have a good time, and you'd have an absolutely horrendous time, but it makes for good audio, mate. It could be worth it. But obviously, the other Bash at the Beach, which ironically, also we figured that out from '96 in Florida. Where was it that it took place? The Daytona, I think it is, Daytona, Florida. Same venue that the heel turn in '96 is also where the stupid Russo Jarrett nonsense with the the laying down takes place as well, which again was covered in plenty of detail at Dark Side of the Ring, and is one that, because of Terry, as we're going to get into, you're never going to know which lie to believe, and if anybody is actually telling the truth in those stories. But like, it's not sad how it ends, but it's kind of, like you say, inevitable how it ends in WCW. But like, I do want to reserve a bit of time to talk about like the early WWF run, because like same as you, I watched that WrestleMania 18 like clip, and they put it up, haven't they, with the unsweetened audio, where it's just pure like Hogan's, like, it's the kick out from the rock bottom, isn't it, from then on, that they put on the WWE Twitter. And it's hairs on on your neck standing up stuff. It is unbelievable. It is, again, it's there. It's a one. If you're talking the pure WWE, Hogan Warrior and Hogan Rock are probably the two most WWE matches that have tried to be replicated since and haven't quite, that are just like unbelievable peaks of the year. And it's like, it's an inevitability as well. Everyone acts like they're surprised that happened. It's like, again, I was a bit older, but like seeing Hogan walk back into the WWF, even in the NWO, like, which was weird because it's Hogan coming back to the WWF, but he's doing it with obviously Nash and Hall, massive stars in their own right, but with two other people and as part of the NWO. And everyone, I felt like a lot of that WWE audience had that same like thought as me. Everyone's eyes are just on Hogan, like, that's Hogan back in the WWF ring. And I know it's only how many years, 8 years since, probably less, but time felt like 12 decades at that point. Like, the fact that he was even there was like, it was inevitable that the crowd were going to do that at WrestleMania 18. It was inevitable. They were going to have to do, which, the run which I actually do enjoy, the nostalgia babyface run, where I think maybe it's the company understanding it, or maybe it's him getting it. He maybe understands this place. All right, I'm the old guy. I'll tag team with Edge. I'll be the sympathetic old man, the Jake Roberts 96, the Terry Funk ECW type who just wants that one last run with the belt, or quasi humble but not really humble. Like, it creates that run as well, Mr. America, all that stuff. Like, I've actually got a lot of time. Some of that's wrestle crap, but I've actually got a lot of time for that run, and I think it is pure nostalgia and pure all those reasons that WrestleMania 18 works as well.
Yeah, I mean, with the WrestleMania, I felt the same way when they brought him back, and it was just like, because obviously we were so sick of the NWO, or I certainly was by that point in time, and bringing them back felt like, even when Vince had done it with this poison he was going to bring back into WWE, it was just like, it was fucking desperation. It was just like, all right, we've left enough time for the contracts to run down so we can give them the reduced contract and stuff.
And they never understood it either. They never understood what worked. No. And again, what worked about NWO and WCW probably couldn't have worked in WWE, but like, they were just generic heels invading, weren't they?
They were, weren't they? But it was also, it was Hogan returning back to WWF, and of which you do one of two matches, otherwise it's a dereliction of duty. You do him and Rock, and you do him and Steve, which is never something that they ever went round to doing, and the timing never worked out on that, really, isn't it? Because, like, I mean, yeah, it just because of injuries and other things, like
and
that.
also
and
Steve,
Hogan himself,
seeing him for what he is, and protecting himself. I mean, he probably I'm sure he does regret not doing it now, but he saw the writing on the wall. He saw what happened to The Rock would probably happen to him too.
I think for that WrestleMania 18 match, there's almost like there's an element of like forgiveness of him sort of stealing the spotlight, because that was one where he was giving the crowd what they wanted. Yeah. At that point in time,
a smarky crowd as well. Somebody said that. I'm playing. It's absolutely true. It's a smart fan crowd.
They want to embrace all the Hogan stuff at that point in time. That's what they want. It's not like WrestleMania 6 where people are ready for a change. And at WrestleMania 7 where it's just like, oh, Jesus, it's more of the same, isn't it? And then by the time you hit WrestleMania 9, it's almost as an outright feeling of, nah, like in the main, we are sick of like this shit. Here, people wanted it. What I find funny about that early 2000s run, and this might be one of the things I put into the good, is there's some right arseholes who have basically had the run of the show, and he just fucks them all over. Triple H, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, like he fucks them over. And it's like, yeah, like Terry knows what he's doing when it comes to this politics.
He got out politics, didn't he, by the master? Like,
all of them.
Sean shows it, proper fucking shows his arse at that match. Which well, I think I missed the mixtape you covered that on. I'd like to cover it myself again at some point. I always laugh at that one.
It's fucking hilarious, but it's hilarious knowing what dicks they are as well. Like just for them to have a little bit of kind of like come up and he's up against Hogan, and it's just like, yeah. On this case, you really have you fucked with the bull, and you've just been given the horns on here. And even his last match is Randy Orton, where normally it would just be, that's his last match in that run, and it should be like at SummerSlam, isn't it? And it should be like, well, the obvious thing is you put over Randy Orton, he's a new up and coming star, and he's like, no, I'm not doing that. No, I think I was listening to something, and he was like, he pitched the idea of, no, I beat Randy Orton. And then either run with Cena and go for the title, and you know which way that would have gone as well. Like, I mean, that's classic Terry.
Imagine him on WWE Unreal. I wish they were doing that in the 80s. Never mind in 2000s. Fed. We would have got some great footage, and obviously, the chat kind of saying there, master politician, as Simon says there. They all took a shot at the king, and they missed in that period. And of course, Terry eventually, outwears his welcome, ends up drifting off into the sun. Does like the odd appearance, like the Muhammad Hassan moment, which we covered on that podcast. Obviously, is the attempt at getting the XWF going as well, which again, in your face, we covered as a series. Don't think any of us have any real nostalgia or love kind of for that period. And obviously, TNA had flirted with him around that time as well. The press conference he did with Jarrett during early TNA with the guitar shot. Again, all the eyes are on Terry, but nothing ever comes of it. And then, like you said, like you mentioned a couple of times there, like his latch big, on telly kind of periods in his career, unless you count, being embarrassed this year on Raw on Netflix, is TNA. And it's like, that's one where you really can boil it down to the good, the bad, and the Terry, or the good, the bad, and the ugly, or however you want to put it with him. It's like, there's some good there. Like, I wish I was at the the Manchester Arena show as last match where he tagged with Sting. As I say, I was there the one after with its Bully Ray team with Sting, and I got Hogan on the outside instead. Still, as a fan who grew up with him, getting to see Hogan in arena throw a couple of punches against, I think, the Aces and Eights was still something worth seeing. But him and Sting as like buddy cops is probably my highlight of his TNA run, and then the rest of it, it's just a lot of, hang on, what are they doing with Bobby Roode? Hang on, what are they doing with James Storm? Hang on, what's going on here? Okay, like, what's this fucking option C? Like, all of that. Why is Val Venus on telly? Where's Christopher Daniels gone? Like, it's him and Bischoff coming in. Obviously, it's the creative you maybe more talk about with TNA than the run of Immortal or some of the other stuff I mentioned there.
Oh, the TNA. See, I always think with the TNA run, it all comes down to me that in the first 10 minutes, and it's up against, what is it, Brett and Shawn facing off in the ring for the first time since Montreal, and watching TNA and seeing where it's going, and you're like, oh God, he hasn't learned anything, is it? They are just going to be running the greatest hits. And it was like, well, how soon are we up till the nasty boys?
Saban Mania, Jesus. Yeah, he really liked the Saban.
Oh, God. Like, what was it? Abyss was going to be the next, was the next John Cena. And it's like, what fucking world?
He just said shit like that. Doesn't he?
Yeah.
Until the day he died, he was like, oh, Kevin Owens, great star. I love him. He's brilliant. It's like, no way you've seen a match. Not a chance. No way.
No.
I'd love to work with him in the 80s. No, you fucking wouldn't. Stop lying.
He just would have taken one look at him and gone, nope. Like, he just looked height, physique. No, not having that.
Yeah.
No matter how
T-shirt,
good.
nope.
Yeah. Wouldn't have had that stuff at all. I'm pretty sure you would put the kibosh on like a bloody Terry Funk or a Stan Hansen if he could have done. Well, Hansen was in Japan, so there's a different sort of like kettle of fish in there as well. But yeah, the TNA run was just like, it was all of the decisions ultimately, and I know some of it will come down to like, you know, getting rid of the 6-sided ring, which was at least a distinctive feature that TNA had that Ewan's mentioned here. The fact it was like, no, we're going back to kind of like basics. They're spending a fortune on all of the various kind of like wrestlers they're bringing in, none of whom are fucking cheap, obviously. And the worst thing was trying to recreate the Monday Night Wars, like which is very much. I mean, I'm sure that as much as more of is like a Bischoff type thing. But if he wanted to put the kibosh on it, he would have been able to. He would have been able to do that. But it was just. It was always. And again, I just thought maybe he will just add star power and he'll get eyes on like things like the X Division and Samoa Joe and AJ.
It's all Jim Rossing it in AEW. Put him in a room with an executive, and you might get TNA a TV deal in some rando country because Hulk Hogan's there. Like that. There's probably truth to that, isn't there? There probably is.
Yeah, there is, and that was the reason they had Sting for such a long time. I mean, and it never really came to fruition. Even when they were drawing like big numbers on Spike, it wasn't like they were on a massive deal. In fact, I think the one year they end up profitable is like 2009, where there's no Hogan. It's like the year before where they've kind of under Scott D'Amore, where they've just gone sort of back to basics, and they're like it's like very much like we need to provide some TV before Hogan and Bischoff come in, and then at that stage, and that was quite good. It was things like, you know, there's a while where Christopher Daniels is pushed up the card and things like this, where it's just like it's like a bit more interesting. But the TNA run was like, it was very much like, right, he sees, and he's not wrong on this, Dixie Carter is more of a mark than Eric Bischoff, can be easily manipulated. And again, what was the last image of Hogan in TNA? Dixie Carter holding on to his leg, grabbing his leg, begging him not to leave. And that was the problem is that for all of this stuff to work, this is a guy that needs to like show some weakness and vulnerability and some like appreciation of just like actually things need to move on past me, and I'm old and I'm not able to work. This is where we need to be. And there was none of that. He was the most unself-aware man in the world.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. It's like that facade is always there. There's always, you know, behind all those great memories I've got as a kid, you go to the 80s, there's the Belzer thing, and then there's obviously the steroid trial, and there's the... And I think it's overblown, the whole Hulk Hogan stop wrestlers unionizing. It's like, all right, well, when he was out the way, why didn't they unionize then? Because wrestlers are fucking cowards, and if it wasn't Terry telling Vince, somebody else was going to. And I'm sure, like, somebody would have broke rank in the end, and it wouldn't have happened. We've got 40 years of evidence of it just not fucking happening that shows you that it was probably never happening, whatever Jesse Ventura tells you. But obviously all of those things are constantly going on in the background, and it's like, but he's Hulk Hogan, and he drives like the money train, so it's fine, you know, and it's hardly like an issue through his career. And I always feel like this last, call it a WWE run, but like, you know, this last chance they gave him, even after, you know, the sex tape, even after, you know, the racist comments, both in the sex tape and on the phone to, was it when Nick was in prison? Like, there's two occasions of that, and, you know, Brandon Thurston did a great job this week of writing up, like, you know, that it's not isolated, and you know, again, very clearly, he literally says, I'm a racist. Like, even the biggest Hulk Hogan defenders in the world shouldn't get around that one, you know, but Hogan tries to, and like, unbelievably gets a WWE pay packet still, you know, to his death, because eventually it's like, well, he's such a big part of our history, we'll go with it. And it's like, I don't think there's any good memories of like the last WWE like appearances that he did. Like, even if you go to like the, you know, the backstage stories of him again talking about the sex tape and talking about the racist comments that he made, and kind of again covering it with, oh well, just don't get caught, folks, watch out for cameras, which was always his take. He even tried to do that in TNA, didn't he? Remember, he had that great idea to have all the wrestlers film each other 24 hours a day, and that was going to be the new reality TV brother. He knew there were cameras on smartphones, so he probably shouldn't have got caught, the fucking stupid dickhead, but he did, and made it clear that was the biggest problem, that he got caught. So like, that was like a big controversy. Then he'd always be a couple of steps away from saying something that's stupid. Like, he'd even, you know, even in like that last like Raw on Netflix where he gets booed out the building, because again, he's had 10 years and he's not had any contrition or any real apology or any real, you know, just acceptance of how bad the things he said were. Like, he got booed out the building, and he's, you know, even at that point in his career, still in denial, and is going, oh, it's just political. It's because I support Trump. And then leaning into that side of it, which, like you said, you know, a lot of people are going to lean on as the biggest controversy first year of his career. He's not. Listen to the other things we said there and the things we covered on the weekend show on Friday. There's a lot more controversial things Hogan did, but it almost summed them up that he kind of. It was almost like the final level thing for Terry Bollea to do, was to become that MAGA Republican, become that meme, and make that part of his personality and brand and his fear that he's trying to flog as well, to the point where he convinces himself that it's just political, brother. That's why they're booing me, not the actual things I've done and said. And like, unbelievably, that's his last appearance. Like, it's that doing that, saying that.
And didn't he also say one of the reasons he was booed was because, well, when I was in there, I was part of the NWO and they were massive.
I was a heel. He tried to play it off like he was a heel, didn't he? That takes us to the lies section we could obviously get into. Just bollocks, innit? Like, who believes that? People were probably buying it in the 80s and 90s when he's telling lies. Not more informed people, but, you could probably pull the wool over eyes a little bit more. But, like, nobody's buying that, Terry. Nobody.
No. He's just chatting shit at that point. And this is, and for, like, and I think the worst, like, I'd say the worst thing is that not only did he say the things that he had really, that he was deep down, and it's not just like, and the fact that there's zero contrition, and the fact that then when he's given a chance to apologize, like, and that's the problem, is people are willing to forgive stuff, and particularly when you're doing it in a locker room full of people who would be more willing than most to forgive him, like, and he still couldn't do it. It was just like, well, the big takeaway is don't get caught. And you just think, mate, you do not get this. You do not get this at all. And you never are going to get it. It was just like this realization of, no, he's a prick. He's just a grade A prick, isn't he? And then you've got that, like, for some smarter fans, you've got that on the back of a guy who's always pushed himself to the forefront at the expense of others in there. And you're thinking, well, how much of that decision, how much of, like, his own thoughts that he's managed to kind of keep off tape for a long time, and that what he's really thinking is going to be influencing that as well. I mean, this is a guy who, like, at his core is a deeply selfish man who viewed everyone as kind of marks who exist to be exploited, whether that's the people he
Carney
works with.
End.
Is absolute carny to the end in there as well. And this is, and I think when it came to like in terms of those, like, later, like, I mean, we think of the racism, like, and then obviously the sex tape thing, which feels like a very 21st century thing to kind of have happen as well. What did he end up doing? He ends up teaming up with Peter Thiel, who is a deeply weird man. And the idea of you can now have billionaires that can crush media companies. And I have no love for Gawker or like TMZ or any of those kind of, like, they're just tabloid sleaze, really. But they're able to be destroyed on the backs of of kind of like what he did, which is not good for a landscape, because it's that kind of like level of revenge that Peter Thiel was, and Hogan was the proxy in order to get to that.
You lay down with, whatever you get pleased. Like, it's like, that's Hogan, like, in that period. Like, you go back to, like, the sex tape, like, that obviously is not the controversy, but, like, the idea that, like, it's because he's knocking around with that fucking knobhead bub with a love sponge, who's like, that was his best mate at that point in his career. And, like, what is he doing with, like, his best mate's wife? Whatever people do privately, I suppose it's their own business, but it's gonna come back to bite you, isn't it? And obviously that, like, he's tied to that then, isn't he, for like the rest of his life? But as you say, they're absolutely, like, the lack of contrition, like, and the lies, like, again, like, I'd forgotten about it, but Brandon Thurston mentioned it in his piece. Like, obviously, when he didn't go as far as apologizing, but, obviously he was on Good Morning America kind of asking for forgiveness, and you're kind of like, I feel a bit sympathetic for you, Terry. And then he tells, like, that, the follow-up interview, he tells, like, that old wives' tale about how, when I was growing up, I grew up with the African American community, and we all said that word. We said it to each other. It was fat. It's like, we know that's, we've heard the tape again because of your gobshite mate Bubba the Love Sponge. Like, we've seen it. We know the context in which he said it.
Yeah,
but he can't let go of the work. He has to, like, do it that way. And, like, again, it leads to, like, he dies, and it's genuinely, like, as much as we make jokes about it, it's a sad it's a sad way to go out with, like, his reputation in tatters, rightfully, because of the things he did and said, and again, never minding all of the stories I'm sure people would have from backstage over the years as well. Brandon even covers in his article, like, there's an allegation of rape from the mid-90s that I just don't think gets any play anywhere in there and gets talked about enough, where he countersues a woman in 1995. But, like, yeah, it's kind of like, that's maybe not necessarily that, but this other stuff is the cloud that he dies with, or even just going to, like, you mentioned the family stuff, and again, seeing Nick Hogan in public and seeing Bischoff and people like that being upset, like, you'd have to have a heart of stone not to be bothered by that. But then at the same time, you see the stuff with, like, joked about at the top, but Linda Hogan, posted that video about her own daughter, and like I say, Brooke kind of having to go, oh, well, I'm just glad I told my dad I loved him the last time I spoke 7 years ago. It's like, oh, like, and obviously, the stories out there about Brooke's husband trying to reconcile him and Hogan never making an attempt and never, allegedly, never wanting to see his grandchildren and stuff like that, because, yeah, that, I guess that's not his focus. His focus is getting his beer brand off the ground and, public relations and being Hulk Hogan in public. And yeah, it almost feels like at some point, not to be too deep about it, but at some point he always talked about that, oh, there's Terry Bollea the man. When I go home, I take that bandana off, and then when I go outside, I'm Hulk Hogan. But I think he's just, I know he lost the line, with the lies and with the bullshit on which was which, at the end. And like, that's clearly bled in his personal relationship and who he chose to surround himself with and who he wasn't surrounded with at the time of his death.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, he's like, you've got to be very deeply cynical about this stuff as well, because he knows what he's doing. This isn't a man getting on who's just blurred the lines because it's almost become too much. It's like, in many ways, it's like, this is what he wanted to project about himself. And then every once in a while, go, oh, when he did something wrong, it's like, oh no, that's not me. That's the Hulk Hogan character. I'm now Terry Bollea, as if it was just a get out of jail free card for this type of stuff. But it's the things like, you mentioned there about like the family stuff. I not want to see your grandkids. Like, then like, fucking hell, mate, what's the point? Wasn't it one of the things where, was it Brooke wanted to go to a concert with him and he went, I don't do concerts. And then he was talking about going to a Lizzo concert like 3 weeks later with his new wife and her kids. And it's just like,
but he was more interested in getting off with Brooke's mate, wasn't he? That was his girlfriend for a while, like one of their mates. Like, I think that's part of the falling out. And the same thing happens. It's a bit like Will Smith and Jada. Same things happened with Linda Hogan as well, and one of Nick's mates. Or family, You saw it in that show. To be fair, I guess we saw it exactly anywhere when that came out.
And what he said to Nick in order to like try and like for him to try and get out of jail as well, like all of that type of stuff. Like, there's what you need to remember with this is there is a deep level of cynicism for Hulk Hogan. Like, you've got to view, like, his motives are like they're dark and they're completely self-centered, and he doesn't give a shit. And it is whatever can be done in order to like kind of like benefit him. Yeah, he's
the quintessential wrestler at the end of the day. Like, even at like the stupidly low level that I was involved. Have a real life outside the wrestling, who can't see the world through any other filter other than, everything's a work, brother, and, everything's about my character, and everything's about saving face, and everything's just about, like, covering for yourself, and like everything's about like making yourself look good in any particular situation. And they lose track of reality. They lose track of like that line between work and shoot, and working their friends versus working the boys versus actually working the crowds. That is the job. Like, it all becomes like one thing, and I think that can only happen when you're like someone like Hogan in his position, and for the amount of time he's in his position over those years as well. Like, it's inevitable. Worked himself into a shoot. There you go. Like, like literally that tweet. Like, again, one of my favorite tweets of all time. The when you work and you work a shoot, brother, or whatever it was. The tweet about Bubba the Love Sponge. It's one of the all-time greats. Like, literally, I think like that's a note to sign off on. That's Hogan. Like, that sums Hogan up.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? Like, this is a man who kind of like Vince in that way, where it was like you've got the real world and you've got the fantasy world, and it's just like, I'm just going to live in the fantasy world. That's the world that I'm going to embrace.
It takes people over, genuinely. I've seen it. Yeah,
it is, and that's kind of who he was, and that's who he was to the very end. And it just like, I mean, and I know we haven't really mentioned in depth, and I've got a whole list of them here, but the amount, and this is the other problem, like you will always have it, it's just a volume of lies. It was just like there's more lies than truth. Like the man couldn't tell the truth about anything. I was on Joe Rogan and he's saying I was in the first Pride Fighting Championship. And it's like, you do know Joe Rogan's been commentating on mixed martial arts since the mid-90s. This guy's not a fool about this stuff. He gets the fucking history of it. He remembers all of these people. And he's saying this stuff to he's saying this stuff to him as well. I mean, I've got a whole, if you want it as an aside,
go on.
Like the list of lies.
We could do both his best tweets and his best lies, to be honest. There's the good night Hulkamaniacs and jabroni marks without a life that don't know how to work. When you work and work yourself into a shoot, marks. There was a lot of that. Text me, brother. Things like that. He'd just tweet out, or he'd tweet out like a picture of like Maddie McCann or something like that.
Joseph Fritzl, mate.
A big fan. Joseph Fritzl.
Somebody wrote down world's greatest dad with the WWE W there as well. And he put it in, he's like, he's got a few family issues at the minute, my granddad. But
take his phone away from him, kids. You really need to.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, you know, that kind of bollocks in there. But that is arguably still like, I mean, I know the greatest wrestling related tweet ever. He's definitely up there. I know Neville Southall's debate, or is it the adult baby takeover isn't happening now. Goodbye. It's just like that one for me. I was like, fair play, Nev. But in terms of the lies, there's loads here. Did you know Elvis was a big fan? Not really. Because Hogan debuted in 1979 and Elvis Presley was dead in 1977. And he said that he would regularly go to see him wrestle when he was working in Memphis. Or maybe he did in spirit form. Who can fucking tell? He was apparently going out with Dolly Parton, Pamela Anderson, Drew Barrymore more at one point. It's like, how fucking old was she at the time? And Brooke Shields. Yeah, he said all of that as well.
Definitely not true.
He was getting ready to shoot himself once, and then Muhammad Ali's daughter rang and saved his life. Like, where the fuck did he pull that out of? He was sat with Kerry Von Erich on a flight from LA to Japan, and he was talking to him there, and that was 3 days before Kerry killed himself. Neither man was in Japan. Just threw that into there as well. Chris Kanyon would call him up all the time, talk about how conflicted he was about his sexuality. No,
that's a horrible one. That one, isn't it? Not even funny, is it? Just dark.
Oh, it gets better / darker. Honestly, Hogan was the one to tell Bret Hart about Owen Hart. He claimed that. Fucking claimed that one in there as well. Said he outpartied John Belushi in LA after WrestleMania 2, which again is impressive considering that John Belushi died 4 years before WrestleMania 2. There I
was going to say, was Kerry Silkin outside the arena dealing the coke? Kerry Silkin's got a real John Belushi story. Terry, not.
Oh God, tell me about it on here as well. He was proposed to do a pay-per-view match between him and Mike Tyson in a shoot fight, but Tyson, this is brilliant. Tyson was terrified that Hogan would shoot on him as well. Mike Tyson was scared that Hulk Hogan was going to shoot on him. Again, I'd have paid money to see that, just to see what could have possibly happened on there as well. There was a charity boxing match between him and George Foreman there as well. And then, he never took place. He claimed it did, and he claimed he hit Foreman so hard that his legs went numb. Again, never fucking happened in there as well. He said that he beat Antonio Inoki so bad that he actually died in the ring, and he was revived with CPR, but he couldn't leave Japan for a while as the fans and the Japanese mafia wanted him dead in there as well. Took down and choked out a Hell's Angel who gave him a dirty look in there as well. Said he invented entrance music. He didn't. And the concept of merchandise. Also,
wasn't even a song.
That.
No. I wasn't even think it was the US Express, wasn't it?
It's fucking ridiculous, isn't it? As well, we're at 400 nights a year. That's impressive, given that there's 365 days in a year. But there we go. He managed to work extra 35 days because of flights back from Japan. And it's just like, Terry, do you know how time fucking works here, mate? Like,
no, he doesn't.
Insane. Said he sold out SummerSlam 92. He wasn't on the card. in there.
I mean, he might. I give him that one. I think that's a elite Madison Square Garden thing where the tickets are sold because we're all watching Hogan tapes in 1991 and 1992 and not fully understanding he's not going to be there. I think that's the same as that because Matt Taven definitely didn't sell those tickets.
That one actually I can agree with you on it, and we spoke about it on the weekend show, and it's like, no,
I mean, he claimed he was there, which he wasn't. Oh, that's a lie. But I think there's a nugget of truth in that one.
Mate, not only did he claim he was there, he claimed he was there for he invited a terminally ill child to the show. Oh yeah, it gets better from here. Then he saw an empty chair staring forlornly back at him, told that the boy had died just before the show. So he wrote Hulkster in Heaven as the song, because naturally a song about a dying child has to involve his name in the title,
of course,
as well. And then he said he donated the proceeds of the album to the child's family. But then, when Jamie Bolger had died, went on the British TV circuit claiming that he'd written the song for that. Fucking hell. Like, I mean, he did.
I don't even remember that. Jesus Christ.
There's a brilliant blog
asking me about that outside my school. I lived in Bootle. Jesus.
Oh, there's a brilliant blog on this from Stuart Millwood, who's fantastic about so much of this stuff. I mean, the Rolling Stones wanted him to join there. Rolling Stones was set up in 1962. He was 9 at the time. Like, I mean,
hey, Bam Margera said he was a good musician. You know, he said he could play. I mean, I don't know why Bam Margera would know, but you know, CKY and stuff like that.
Was he good enough that Lars Ulrich wanted him to join Metallica as their new bass player? No, which Metallica have also denied several times there as well. Said that he would have got that mainstream Hollywood success, except he rebuffed the advances of a gay movie producer. So a little bit of homophobia just thrown into the mix as the reason for his shit films not to do well in there as well. He said that like each of the scripts I believe this one, each of the scripts are rewritten by him because they weren't any good. Spoiler alert, he doesn't improve them. We have reviewed these. They're not great.
Yeah.
I mean, God, if he wrote that, then he did zero revision on what the IRA was in there as well. He was going to be in the
Commando was good. I'll give him that. I like that.
Oh, yeah. He turned down the role of Little John in Robin Hood Men in Tights and the lead in a crime thriller opposite Pamela Anderson, who was going to be his love interest, but was also going to be in The Wrestler as well. Darren Aronofsky.
As the wrestler, I assume?
As the wrestler. Like Darren Aronofsky's going to cast him in that. There's more chance of him casting him in fucking Noah than that, or Black Swan for that matter, there as well. Incredible. Obviously there's the Andre stuff, which I don't even really need to go into in a lot of ways. £700 in front of 93,000 people slammed him. Allegedly, although he did say that, like, as during the body slam, that he tore every muscle in his back, but he didn't also over time didn't just tear the muscle in his back, but both his biceps, his quadriceps, and his lats. Didn't miss any shows. And then he said Andre the Giant died 2 days after WrestleMania 3.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. He didn't. It was like 6 years later.
We saw the tapes, Terry.
And this one's incredible. I wanted this one to be true, but it isn't because physiology tells me it can't. He says that he witnessed Andre the Giant take a poo in a hotel bathtub. Why he's there watching, I don't know. It's never explained. And he said he almost completely filled it up to the taps.
I want that to be true. But, yeah.
I have done some monster shits in my day. Nothing compared. There wouldn't be me. I would just be fucking like deflated, like I was like a fucking ring that you'd bring to the swimming pool or something as a result on that. Fucking incredible. So there you go.
That's the true one. There's
the true one.
And that's how we'll all remember him. You know, the wrestler, the legend, the movie star, allegedly the racist. And the fucking bullshit. Like that. All of those things are true. Like, and like at the end, it shouldn't be undersold. I don't think any of them, but like I understand why some might, just want to talk about one of those categories. But yeah, that's it. That's the man himself. Like you couldn't separate one from the other. We can't separate one from the other. That's Terry.
That's Terry. That's classic Terry. Bullshit Terry. There you go.
And like I say, we've obviously been doing a lot of shows this year on, just again, coincidentally on Terry, not even half out of love, half out of, we just take the piss out of them a lot of the time. But, you know, I think that run will continue, obviously, not to give away dealer's choice too much, but there might be something there. But obviously, I know we did WrestleMania 9, that's in the archives from this year. Like I say, Mega Powers Explode is one of the great shows we did a couple of years ago. But like, yeah, just this year, obviously we covered that. We covered Mr. Nanny. That was one that we did this year as a film.
Double Terry.
Double Terry, that was what we called that one. And obviously, yeah, just now, Bash at the Beach 96, which will be dropping this week for patrons as well. I don't even mean it as like I mean, Terry would respect the cash in, because Eric Bischoff is currently trying to cash in right now on with his all-American, or real American wrestling there. They're continuing on, and the beer company are continuing on, and they're all, you know, they pushed them right to the fucking end, didn't they, to flog that stuff. So I guess we should too. But I don't know. If you feel dirty about it, get a free trial and you can listen to those shows as well. But yeah, you know, it's a career that obviously we're just going to keep covering, because you can't. It's like the Vince stuff as well. Everything we think about Vince, like, which is, I would say, 10 times as bad. Like, as bad as the Hogan stuff is, you know, also really fucking horrendously bad. The Vince stuff, you know, on another planet, of also bad. Like, you can't cover wrestling history without talking about Vince. He comes up in all of our retro shows, and the same is going to continue to be the case with Hogan. And yeah, we'll probably chronicle a few more of those pockets of his career. And yeah, there's 5 to 1 lies. Maybe we could do that up at some point, JP, and that could be a whole show. 5 to 1 tweets, all of it. Connor there, yeah, good summary. Oh, he was a twat, wasn't he? Yeah, he was. Yeah. Like, he just was. Like, it's That's in every facet. And he was Hulk Hogan. Like, yeah, he was.
The good, the bad, and the Terry. There you
go.
That's who he was there as well.
Well, there you go. Like I say, we'll continue talking it. I've got I'm obviously doing the live tomorrow. I think I've told, put it out there. I've got a SB3 as anyway. I've got SB3 on the live tomorrow. We'll probably talk a little bit about Hogan there as well, on top of SummerSlam and other stuff coming up. That was weird. Steph booked them also for a preview on Fightful, and then we were like, I was thinking of booking it. No, she said that she was like, I think I'm getting Karen on for the next Fightful preview, and I was like, I'm literally if Karen's listening, Karen fancy doing a Grapple Live, because I was going to get in touch with Karen for that one as well. Pure coincidence, but it's SB3. He'll always find an hour in the day to do a podcast. He's a man after my own heart.
Great bloke.
Like I said, might cover it a bit more there, but there you go. Cheeky plug for that show, which will be free on the YouTube tomorrow as well. But I'm sure we'll be covering other stuff going on in the world of wrestling, which we'll also try and do here. And maybe I'll get SB3's thoughts more on the SummerSlam card than anything. But maybe I'll find out what he thinks of, speaking of lies, JP, and speaking of bullshit, WWE Unreal that dropped on Netflix today. I thought it was just episode 1 going on, so I was ready to just talk about that today, and then it turns out like there's the full 5, isn't it? I think that's all of them, or at least this first batch that are on there. So I did skip my way through some of the highlights of the later episodes just before we jumped on, but did see the first 2 in their entirety. But like, I don't know, carries on the fucking legacy of Hogan, doesn't it? WWE Unreal, because like, you know what, JP? I regret ever being half excited for this show, because like, if you haven't seen it, folks, you don't need to. It's maybe because obviously Netflix were working on a Hogan documentary, and with him being gone, maybe that'll have a bit more reality to it, like the Vince McMahon one, which was mostly very good, despite some reservations we had. This might as well be produced by the WWE. This might as well be like a WWE Network produce type show that they used to do. This might as well be on A&E. It's just fucking, you can't trust wrestling people, JP. You can't let them. Hard Knocks is fucking brilliant. I used to love it. Don't watch it so much anymore. And even like, I know you don't love them, but like the All or Nothings they do on Amazon, the Premier League stuff, like, it's fascinating seeing real sports people have real conversations about like real things that you remember as news stories, like Jose Mourinho coming into Spurs, that type of thing, like, and getting to see what actually happened. Because you imagine one thing, don't you, and then you see the reality. And a lot of it being real is that, like, I think a lot of the time we simplify when we analyze wrestling. It's like, oh, that Punk and Rollins match was terrible, not realizing that, like, you'll put the blame on Punk and Rollins, but obviously there's a fucking road agent like screaming in the referee's ear on a headset. There's a referee and 30 other people like Gorilla going on, like, so like, there's obviously, it's more complex than we talk about, and like a show like this can show you that. but they choose not to because, like I say, you can't choose wrestling people because they're gonna bullshit you and they're gonna turn everything into a work. Because even that example, fucking, they turn it into like a little drama play about Abyss being really sad that they're going over time on a Netflix show, which they try and pretend like it's this big deal. It's not. They just create this drama. They manufacture this drama where he's just so sad and he's so apologetic about it, and he just wants Bruce Pritchard to forgive him, and it's so clearly fake. It's so clearly the Joseph Park character, pretty much like groveling and trying to get his like forgiveness, and then they'll cover something like, sorry, I'm just blowing through the entire thing here, but like they'll cover like the Rock stuff and Cena heel turn, and like they'll show you Travis Scott coming out at WrestleMania and taking 35 minutes to get there, and Triple H half says something like, yeah, it was a bit, the match wasn't quite on the level of some of the other stuff there, but it was never gonna be. But nobody does a deep dive on, okay, very clearly everyone thought The Rock was coming out. Where was he? Like, nobody does a deep dive on, okay, what was Rock's actual idea for this whole thing? Why, does The Rock then disappear from the narrative of this? Like, they don't cover any of the stuff that would actually be really interesting. They work the drama instead, because wrestling people are always going to be wrestling people, and that's how they've treated it. It's honestly, it's complete bollocks. Like, there's some glimpses you get of like the gorilla position and how that works, and little glimpses of the writers' room, which in theory you get to see how it works. But again, the conversations to me sound rehearsed and scripted. Or you see like, a clip that's been going around today. I don't know if you've seen the clip. I know you haven't seen the episode, but Rock and Triple H going back and forth about the Cena heel turn. And it's like, oh, you know what, brother? I reckon Travis Scott should come out first and you come out second. And they're standing there talking. And if we find out in the coming days that was recorded after the segment had already aired, like, I'll believe you, because none of it comes across like what the actual conversation would have been between Triple H and Rock. Like, that's where the interest is. That's where the drama is. That's why this works for sports. It's the real stuff you're getting to see. It's none of that, unfortunately, and that's wrestling. Which again begs the question why it exists in the first place. It's slop, yeah. Cameron's right.
That's it. It's content for content for content's sake. I mean, Ewan says here, compare this to Wrestling with Shadows. I watched the first episode, and I started to watch a bit of the heel turn. I will end up finishing this, partly because I'm going to be on holiday, so there's going to be a point where I'm just going to be like, oh, I'm just going to watch these. And also to do the Vicky test of like, what do you think of this? This is a thing that's on Netflix. And see how much of that she kind of tolerates. But the problem is they always, because they can't show we got this wrong. It doesn't have any. So sometimes when you're watching,
because they get everything right and everything's great.
That's it. Everything is right. Everything is like, oh, that's a brilliant decision. That's fantastic. So they're talking about the Netflix debut without mentioning the show was shit, which you don't expect them necessarily
to
Rock
do. Broke character, like barely scratch under the surface of that.
Yeah, it doesn't, like, it just sort of skates past stuff. There is things of general interest where you're like seeing, like you say, the construction of Gorilla, or like you say, the writers' room, or seeing like even just putting a face to a name,
original
like
WrestleMania
Ed
card.
Koskey. Yeah.
Seeing that, like, as was reported and was talked down as dirty dirt sheets, Punk was originally supposed to face Gold there, and I'm sure it doesn't happen like it happens on the show where they dramatize it, where they're in the writers' room. You know what? I think we should give that Jey Uso lad a shot, and then it ends up with Jey Uso in the spot. Again, that's very clearly put together for WWE Unreal, but like, obviously, I do believe the truth is that, like, Punk Gunther was the originally planned match, and they had originally planned WrestleMania card that changed. Like, it's interesting to at least get. So you're right. You know what? I should take it back. There are those little glimpses that are interesting. Sorry, JP.
But what it is the clothing is interesting, like the packaging around this and how it's presented. But the content isn't. The content, it's not like, and they'll go, well, it's like our Drive to Survive. It isn't. Drive to Survive has worked and helped like popularize F1 because it humanized a lot of figures, and it does some elements of that when they're like saying, well, this is, let's say, a Rhea Ripley. This is her real name. This is who she is. But it never goes in depth enough, and it doesn't show like real human beings, and real human beings have weaknesses and they have failings and they have flaws and things like that. You don't get any of that stuff. You don't get any of, because ultimately it's just like, well, what puts us in what they think is the best possible light? But that doesn't make for good TV, because there's like a complete lack of drama, because it'll basically say, well, even if something isn't meant to happen, we turned around the situation and we made it brilliant anyway. And you're like, well, what the fuck is this? So I watched that first episode. I found it intriguing, but I was also very, it's just like, well, a lot of this is just bollocks. isn't it? And it does, and it's like when I was seeing the CM Punk Seth Rollins stuff in theirs.
I don't know if I believe that or not. I don't believe that's part, because they obviously make it part. Again, for example, there's a shot where Punk is sat next to Jacob Fatu and they're joking around, and Kevin Owens is like fuming. Clearly, like you can see him like looking at his phone. His body language is just like he doesn't want to be sat next to Punk, and that's the Netflix like thing they did at WHQ, isn't it? Where what does Owens say? He does like a shoot line at Punk, doesn't he? Punk had said something in an interview. What was it? It was something about like moves or something, or not bad for like he says so, he like fires a Punk like, and it's very clearly a shot at something Punk said in an interview, and very clearly there's a real like button of heads that's happened behind the scenes there that's got nothing to do with the story being told. But of course they don't cover that because they just want to cover the funny joke that Punk's doing with Jacob Fatu instead. And like I say, I can't tell with Punk anymore. Maybe that's the true worker, but like he's talking about like, oh, main event I've done. He's having like this chat with Gunther, like going, oh, you guys are my real like, you're my European friends. You'll level with me, but oh, what a great moment it is that I'm getting to main event WrestleMania, and he's like talking it up like he's so emotional about it and stuff like that. It's like, maybe that's true. Maybe that's just who the man Bill Brooks has become. But I mean, that's just kind of what a character was doing on telly. Like, there's a lot of that, isn't there? Where it's like, maybe he's working too.
And how much more interesting of a documentary would it be that you bring back this guy who just rubs everyone up the wrong way, and you bring him back into the fold, and it doesn't appear he's shown any kind of like ability to change or anything else along those lines. They say that he does. There's no real indication that is the case as well. No. They don't even mention, and the fact that it's he went away in 2014, and then that's it. He just went away. That's the end of that. And it's just like, well, by not acknowledging that he went somewhere else and there was an implosion there, which would have made, again, it would have been better dramatically. It would have been much more interesting for people to watch. Stuff like, oh, this guy's like a fucking wild card. Even if you knew nothing about wrestling, they take away all of that drama by just like focusing on like the kind of obvious shit.
And even clearly, it's right there because they tell a Jey Uso story about how, Jey Uso put Jey Uso in the spot for WrestleMania, and it was going to be Punk Gunther, but now it's going to be Jey Uso Gunther. Clearly, in real life, Punk has either threw his toys out the pram, or they've known he might throw his toys out the pram. And like I say, the original card for WrestleMania was Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns, the match that made a lot more sense. And they've shoehorned Punk into that to make it a three-way, to give Punk a big spot on the card, and so he can pretend to main event WrestleMania. Like, that's interesting if they'd have covered why they did that, or like the panic of, oh shit, we've given Jey Uso this moment. Fuck, we've got to give Punk something, or it'll be fuming. Or Phil legitimately being fuming that being like, I'm happy for Jey, but I wanted that. Come on, what the fuck's going on? They just don't delve into that in any kind of depth. But that, again, that's the type of show this is. It really is. I like to say, there are those interesting little tidbits, like say the WrestleMania card in there. Apparently, I don't know again how much this was aware. Chelsea Green was supposed to be winning the Women's Rumble by just being the last person standing. Everyone would eliminate each other, and then she'd just be the last one standing. But that sounds more like an R-Truth comedy bit than something they were ever seriously going to do. They do show like Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte thing where they went off script, and like there's a bit of Triple H kind of half chastising them, like via the agents, which feels like it could be real, but it just set my kayfabe alarm like going, where I was like, now I'm wondering if they did go off script, and whether like they went off script for this Netflix show, and it was just a little bit of drama they could have in. But again, they don't really delve into it in a way that you could maybe figure that out for yourself. And like I say, there is the daft thing with the Punk Rollins match going overtime on the first Netflix show, and like I say, Abyss being like a scared little child on it. And the other, obviously the big through line for it, I mentioned it earlier, but like the Cena Cody Rock dynamic, like did you see like the Crime Watch like kind of reconstruction of Triple H's phone calls, where he's like, it's like they have all these graphs on screen, like he's pulling this amazing thing together, this heist job together. It's like one of those films where he's like, so first I had to call Cody, then I called Travis Scott, then I called John Cena and told him it's like, why would you call Travis Scott there? John Cena? Like, it's so weird how central Travis Scott is to like this documentary, and like how big a part of the plans he allegedly was. But like, again, it's the sanitized version of that story, where everyone had different ideas. Cody wanted, to go this way, and Cena was well up for it when I had a conversation with him, and Rock wanted it to go a certain way. And allegedly, Kevin Owens was going to be originally in the John Cena spot. Maybe that's a scoop. I don't know. I can't picture it, but maybe that's the way they were going in. So you do get a little bit of interest there. But yeah, it's the version they want you to tell you, with complete with graphs, JP, and reconstructions and all kinds, and you know, little screenshots of Travis Scott's phone and all the magic of editing. Oh, I think you muted JP, unless it's me.
No, you're right. It's muted because I keep on fucking sneezing every 15 seconds as well. My bad. As Simon says it, like a very boring version of The Wire.
It really is,
well.
yeah. Who's the underboss? It's Travis Scott. Like that's he's in the Tony Soprano position, and if he did it in Sopranos with the FBI.
And there's also an element of this. I say an element. There's a very strong, heavy element in this, which is without Triple H, this company would be all over the shop. And it is. It's all about Papa H. And it's all about like this guy he's the dad of the
Ripley
company.
On the stomach, stuff like that.
All of that stuff, and it's just like of which you just want Buddy Murphy to run in and fucking twat him. Go, don't fucking do that, you creep. Just because your marriage has failed, you're not having a fucking go at mine.
To be fair, he gets a bit closer with Cody. Like that. To be fair, underneath the seams, you can see who Tripp's favourites are. It's not Roman Reigns. It's very clearly Cody. He sees Cody as the guy because it's all he says the whole way through. And clearly, as you can see on television, he sees Rhea Ripley as like, if not the biggest star in the company, definitely the biggest star of the women's division. And they hammer that home.
Although he gives something away in that very first episode, and he goes, "It's really hard." He goes, "You're a white meat babyface. Really hard to be a white meat babyface. Easy to be evil." With his confidence, it's like, "Yeah, mate, that's why you fail as a babyface because you're not likable at all." And your magic master plan of like, I'm a heel. What will I do? I'll hit him with a sledgehammer. That's my fucking like cerebral assassin bullshit. Like all of that stuff in there as well. I just thought I just related that purely to him. But will I watch the rest of these? Yeah. Do I think there'll be a second series? I mean, we'll see the figures. I'm not convinced. Like, I think they'll say they've done it and they've put it out there. And there still is a great wrestling TV documentary behind the scenes thing that you look at AEW, you go, if you're able to show warts and all stuff that goes backstage, because that's the key, has to be warts and all. If you show that, that's immediately interesting. So you go, oh, this is a company that's got like a bit of self-awareness that not everything is perfect. Everything is difficult. If you're interviewing people whose contracts have run out and they're explaining why they're pissed off about it, that actually adds more to the drama than anything else. But you're not getting that here. If we're getting the reason, well, one of the people, what is it? See, as soon as I heard Nick Khan talking on that, and I only saw the beginning of it, and he goes like, well, WWE are big fans of Travis Scott. And it's like, what, the corporation is? Like, what the fuck? Like, what kind of a sentence is that to begin with as well? Yeah, just, it's that kind of like thrown with a lot of bullshit marketing speak, but done with the veneer of this is a good quality sports documentary. So you'll be enticed by that bit. You'll watch the first few minutes of the first one, go, oh, this is kind of interesting. And then you'll start to see this for really what it is.
100%. And like I say, the opportunity was there to see something a lot more interesting. And it's content for content's sake. It's shovelware. And you might rubberneck some interesting interactions and get to see some things you don't usually see. But as far as anything underneath the surface, it's a skip for me.
Yep, absolutely. Which takes us to some WWE news. I hate talking this much WWE, but fuck me, we've gone the whole way.
We'll be on to AEW in a bit. And we got the G1. And we got Rev Pro as well. Might be a long show this week, lads. We'll get there.
Have indeed. So, sales for SummerSlam Saturday at the minute. Set up for 45,604. They've sold 42,357. And for the Sunday, they have sold, if I can find it on here, they've sold 44,997. So still up on that. But just to give you a case in point, if anyone talks about how the configuration for All In and stuff like the Bad Faith one, it is just over half the seats that are within the stadiums because it's in Cleveland. What is it? Yeah. Oh, no, it's not in Cleveland. It's MetLife Stadium, but that holds up to 85,000. Now, obviously, there's a screen and other things like that as well. So they're going to have to do a bit of jiggery-pokery, although I would expect sales to go right up on the day of the show and that for both of those numbers to be hitting over 50,000 as well, because they'll say regardless, because they'll be saying they'll be going over 100 on that. So, yeah, that's where they are in terms of the SummerSlam sales. Drew McIntyre he's claimed to be stuck in England after being refused a flight to the US. Sounds like the making of a WWE sitcom there as well. he said that he's stranded. He's been turned away in the airport there as well. He showed up at check-in after a stay in England for a friend's wedding, and because he didn't have his US passport with him and only his UK one, he was turned away. And his wife went back to the US without him to care for their unwell cat in there. And then he claimed that he went into kayfabe mode and blamed Jelly Roll for the incident. So whether Jelly Roll is setting immigration policy in the US wouldn't surprise you under Trump, would it really, if that was the case? But that's where we are there as well. He'll be there. He'll be there back in the same time, and he's making best out of a bad situation there as well. And he was there filming. He goes, why is he cutting a promo with cows? You think he would do with this current administration, wouldn't you?
Just take both your passports with you, mate. I feel like he's done, like you say, he's done it on purpose. He knows he's going to be taking the pin to Jelly Roll. He's like, fuck it, Miz can do that instead. I'll let him take the heat. Yeah,
exactly. It's a very fucking fair play to him. He's making the best of a bad situation here for him. So, so he's done all right on that front. And then take a trip over to AAA land as well, which I don't know if you've seen this angle. There we did have Dominic Mysterio showing up in AAA. What was it? He was attacking. What was it? He ended up attacking both Vikingo and Dragon Lee. He had like a mask on, so it covered his hair. And when he took it off, big heat. This is part of the Alianzas show that they do on like a weekly basis there as well. And it's resulted in him being in a 4-way for the AAA Mega Championship, which, dare I say it, it's a controversial thing. Wouldn't be that surprised if he ended up winning it, frankly, in order for that to be the case. But I think it's him, Dragon Lee, who is it? El Grande Americano and Dominic Mysterio in there. In case you're curious.
Dom Mysterio. Yeah. Like, I think we figured it out on the Bash at the Beach show. I think it was a Giant we were saying it about, but like Dominic Mysterio is like 6 years older than the Giant was in WCW in 1996. Like he has been around a while, but like he's a wild one. Obviously with SummerSlam this week, I'll be doing the weekend show with Matty. Maybe we'll deep dive a bit more on like what they're doing with him and why he's still a heel, because he gets these like that reaction he got at AAA. Like it is the chat is saying it's unbelievable if you've seen the clip. Like he's so over. He really is. And the scene, and obviously there's a limited shelf life in doing him as a babyface, but it seemed like that was the direction after WrestleMania, and they've just kind of not done anything interesting with it. But yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's a crate. I never would have actually predicted that you'd have like a overwhelming fan groundswell of support for Dominic Mysterio to become like a big baby face. But there we are in there. And you're probably wondering, where do I watch Triple Mania? Well, you can watch Triple Mania 33 on YouTube. So this is going to be on August 16th. From the usual arena in Mexico City, Ciudad de Mexico in Mexico City there as well. So obviously I've said what the main event is going to be on there as well at the same time. Yeah, be an interesting one. See what they do production-wise and other things like that. If they manage to add to it, if they do manage to sell it out, because in recent years, if it's done 10,000, it's been doing well. We're away from when the stadium first, the arena first opened, and it did like near 20,000, because it's like the big arena in Mexico City. Obviously, there's Arena Mexico, but in terms of what's used for like UFC and stuff like that, and it's very much like state of the art, which Arena Mexico really isn't as well. So, yeah, that's where it's going to be on. It's going to be on YouTube, so we can all watch it on there again. Like
I'll take it on YouTube. I'm all right with that. It'll be something to watch on the night, and we'll all kind of rub a neck at and wonder if Del Rio's coming back, which it seems like he's not, based on the news. I think he might be fully on the outs for both, but. Like we said, it's what ROH should have been on YouTube. I don't think anyone's paying for AAA at this point, and everyone used to watch like the streams that people would do on Twitch instead anyway. So yeah, keep that great tradition going and have it on YouTube instead. But yeah, speaking of WWE internationally, JP,
exactly, they're going to be in Japan for WWE Super Show Japan. That's going to be on October 17th and 18th here. Doesn't mention where it's going to be running. I'm assuming it's Sumo Hall or Budokan. It'd be one of the two I would have thought on here. And there's various other packages that are on there as well. I'll just have a look on the WWE
links
website. Don't
seem to work.
Oh yeah, if it doesn't. Oh no, it's from Sumo Hall. Is where it's going to be for those on there.
Ryogoku Kokugigan, to give it its full name and pronounce it completely terrible.
What's interesting, and this links into the other element of this that I think is something that's worth noting, is obviously WWE is on a Beamer, and a Beamer are the company that effectively own Noah. So, and they certainly showcase Noah. So you would expect there to be perhaps some movement on some of the stuff with Noah there as well. If Kenta turned up, wouldn't be a big surprise. If Ozawa or a few other people turned up in there as well, be the kind of thing you would expect to have happen. But yeah, back to Japan, and it'll be on Netflix as well, or YouTube.
You know what's actually interesting though, JP? 2 days before I land in Japan as the show. That would have been, to be honest, 1 day really, if you count time zones. I don't know if I'm gutted about it. We honestly, we booked the Tokyo flights last week, and we're booked to fly on the Sunday that the second show is, but late at night, so we won't get there till Monday. But yeah, we could maybe we'll cross paths in the airport or something like that.
That's what I'm thinking.
Bump into Gunther or Punk. Again, I'm going all the way to Tokyo to really want to see a WWE show in Tokyo. It'd be interesting as an experience, wouldn't it, to kind of see WWE in a different setting. But I honestly can't believe that. Only booked it last week. Maybe we would have put it a couple of days the other direction. It's not worth changing the flight either. We'd have to pretty much pay for an entirely new flight, and it cost me enough to book the seats on our flight out there. So yeah, gonna miss it unfortunately, but maybe I'll see some of the superstars of WWE in Tokyo, which again, no coincidence by the way, while AEW are honouring the memory of Antonio Inoki at Wrestle Dream, of course WWE are going to Tokyo. That's the weekend they chose.
Of course they're doing it, because they booked it years in advance, mate. When will we all get used to it and listen to that? But
that's our mates at the Fed, but
yeah, good luck.
But there we go. I don't really have any thoughts this week on Raw or SmackDown, so we've gone a bit long on the opening segment there. I saw Raw, and yeah, again, maybe I'll talk it more with SP3. I'll definitely talk it more with Matty on Weekend Show. Punk and Gunther was mostly a good segment, and Punk showed a little bit of fire. I just don't 100% believe in that fire when it comes to how much he wants the World Heavyweight title. But yeah, outside of that, there was some build for the SummerSlam matches, and obviously the Hogan tribute at the top of the show as well, and yeah, SmackDown similar format as well. But don't know if you saw any highlights that you wanted to mention quickly before we move on.
Not really, no. I've been squeezing in all the other stuff today, squeezing a load of G1 in, I have to say, in between works. I've had a bit of Unreal, so I saw the results and stuff, and it appeared to be that it was like your kind of almost standard go home show that you'd be expecting. But I'm very intrigued to see what Matty's enthusiasm level is like for this for SummerSlam. I'm very intrigued. Is he buzzing? Well, we'll find out on Friday.
For the tag match that Roman Reigns is working. Great schedule he's got, isn't it? He works tag matches when he actually gets there rather than singles. But yeah, it's got a little bit of juice behind it. But yeah, as Ewan said there in the chat, yeah, Roman doing some selling for Bron Breakker, who definitely looks more of a star with Seth out. That was another positive of Raw as well. But yeah, the Punk promo was more like it, but still, it's got that WWE veneer around it as well. But I'll get into that more in the week. Excited Matty on the weekend show this week, which actually does mean he's being forced to watch Hangman Page versus Jon Moxley. So I'm quite looking forward to chatting that with our AEW correspondent. I imagine I'll be doing some of the heavy lifting there, but takes us into to some AEW to talk JP, and obviously Forbidden Door around the corner as well. We haven't forgot, and WWE certainly haven't forgotten as well. But yeah, few details on it. Not quite sold out yet, JP. The show. We are looking good numbers as far as tickets distributed. So at this point, with a couple of weeks to go, we are at 13,281 tickets sold for AEW, with the setup being 16,000. I think they'll get there. I don't know how much more they can open up. It reminds me of, obviously, with Matty, I went to see the Money in the Bank show WWE did, and they knocked staging down and all kinds to fit Matty in. You must have put a word in to get some extra tickets on sale, but they jammed a few more than this in, but you have to mess with the staging at that point. So I think they'll hit the last 3,000. I think they'll do it. I think maybe slightly interesting as well as the fact that obviously we've got Dynamite and Collision the same week, and we're big boosters of the idea of doing different parts of the UK, and Glasgow's enough away from London, I would absolutely say, and our Scottish listeners would definitely say that you'd think this would sell out too. But yeah, we're looking at 5,664 tickets out, with 7,383 being what the setup is. So just under 2,000 to to clear there. Do you see them doing both? We have still got what 22 days now until the show based on WrestleTix numbers.
I could see hitting 16,000, which is obviously because I mean the total amount of seats on there is 17,500. Obviously, you're going to lose some because of staging. I think they're going to hit that 16,000. That I'm not worried about. I mean, ideally, you'd like it to sell out because I mean, looking at the map on here, it clearly is taking like sort of quite a. It's the usual big staging, which is going to be interesting. They're going to bring that all the way down to London if they're not really going to be using it as well. This is where you need to do a media tour. This is where you need to have Will Ospreay over here appearing on a whole variety of shows, not just TalkSport, not just Hawksby and Jacobs, but a whole series of stuff. They were talking to Simon fucking Jordan or whatever, like doing like loads of like big media, trying to get himself on BBC Breakfast, stuff like that. I think it needs that kind of a push. Because the other big thing for this, look at the prices. Cheapest ticket for the Hydro's £30.90, which even when you add Ticketmaster fees, which is probably 35 quid, that's a fucking billy bargain compared to what having to pay for WWE. But the thing is are people aware of this? Are they relying on that, like, still, like, a word of mouth without going to traditional media sources? Where really you want to say, here you go, here we've got these tickets here. They're, you know, reasonably priced. You can watch brilliant wrestling, do all of those kind of things. But I think it requires a media blitz on their part in order to push them over the line. And they've got Will Ospreay over here. And you know, they may well have someone else in there, but I think
I'm under no doubt, especially that last week. That's the type of percent. I know Gareth always jokes about it, like the walk up with WWE, but like that is what happens. You know, people make the decision last minute, and less walk to the ticket office on the day of the show, more check Ticketmaster the week of the show and go, all right, it's 80 quid. All right, someone's selling one on StubHub for 60. I'll go, and obviously that doesn't affect the numbers, but you know, you get a lot of that, and I think there'll be more interest as you know, as you get closer as well. I think they can easily hit that, and they can call it a sellout for Forbidden Door. You know, and that's you know, it might be a couple of thousand less than what WWE did in the same venue, but again, setups. You know, they could still call it a gigantic win, and I think it will be with time. But yeah, the Glasgow Dynamite surprised me a little bit. It reminds me of last year with Cardiff, where it was like that should sell out right away. Weird that it's not selling out right away, but I think, like you said, with a bit more of a media push, maybe they can get there. But I mean, on that point, any thoughts on some of the week's TV? Obviously, we talked Dynamite already. Collision wasn't up to much this weekend, to be honest. I could probably say Alex Windsor put in one of her better ever performances with Athena. Thought that was a really strong match on Collision. Outside of that, wasn't much going on for me as a show this week. It really has been a bit of a lull period, hasn't it? Like Dynamite itself, you know, over the last couple of weeks, it doesn't feel like they've put the best foot forward post all of the great press, from ourselves included, that came out of All In. But yeah, maybe this week's Dynamite is more to get excited about than Collision, unless you had any particular notes on it. No,
I mean, I would completely agree about Alex Windsor in there as well. I want to see Dustin Rhodes
good on her.
Destroyed.
She's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, she has gotten a lot better as well, and she's really
Athena.
Yeah,
Athena as well, which she's not talking. It's a fantasy. It's like, that's the thing. I think maybe because none of us are watching ROH, and the people who watched ROH did warn us, you know, careful what you wish for, get her on main roster. She will do some of that panto stuff when it comes, you know, wear the stupid Shark Week hat and do basically be Shark Boy, but the female version. But when she wrestles, she's still fucking brilliant. And like, I thought that, she was obviously a big part of why that match was great. But yeah, Alex Windsor was very good as well.
Yeah, I thought she was very good. I mean, I want to see Carl Fletcher destroy Dustin Rhodes. That's something I want to see for this. That's really what it should be. It should be.
They seem to be setting that up.
Street fight. Yeah.
I still don't think it's worth it. I still wouldn't have put the belt on Dustin Rhodes just to do that. I just think the bloom's off the rose a bit. You're not getting that much of a rub from beating Dustin Rhodes at this point. But watch him go out and kill it and have a great match, and we kind of forget that criticism. I did think the massive payoff to Anthony Bowens and Max Caster.
Oh, that was funny.
Collision. It was like, I mean, they're basically Gareth Cully years doing a Bret Austin and doing the alleged double turn that took place all those years ago. Like, obviously with Bowens threatening Billy Gunn and Caster basically being a babyface at this point because people are enjoying his comedy stick. Not the way I expected this to go when this tag team was so over a couple of years ago.
Oh my God, it's. I think you said this a while ago. where do we end up at the end of all of this? We end up with them back together, but less over than what they were when they were broken up. So what's been the fucking point? Like, really, when you think of where they were and where they should be, and they should have got rid of Billy Gunn a long, long time ago, because he's added nothing to this act at all.
And now he's the centre of this angle.
He is.
It's Dad picking between his other two sons.
Mate, this is like some proper fucking Hogan-esque style politicking to make sure that the angle is about him, while he simultaneously puts no one over in the process. But the fact that Anthony Bowens has been rejected, and this is something that when the way he's presented is like this very fan-friendly gimmick of him going out there and, you know, like not only like sort of embracing this as like the first, like, you know, like he's you know, how many gay wrestlers have that kind of big push where that is a big part of their act, and it's just been rejected because people are just like, well, I just don't care, just not particularly interested. It's the 5-2 player,
you know. Come on, the packaging's terrible, isn't it? All of it. It's terrible for this, and the thing is that Max Caster, like you say, the stupid fucking chants and everything else, the fact it happened organically from the crowd while the match was taking place was genuinely funny. But yeah, outside of that, it was like, I mean, it was a show, wasn't it? I mean, I think Dynamite this week will be. Hopefully, we're back to the races with Dynamite this week. Obviously, Hangman Moxley, gigantic, you know, like as far as rematch, and hopefully explains why they've been keeping this a little bit lukewarm as far as keeping the stuff going with them too. So we've got that. And probably I say that I'm sure it's going to lead to blood and guts, but I think I'll do a decent number and should be a great match. Obviously, everyone banned from ringside being the stip. So a different match than the pay-per-view. Young Bucks obviously being in the tag tournament's interesting, them against the Outrunners. Honestly, whoever wins that's going to the final. Pretty much, I think that much is clear. And one of those two teams is facing FTR in front of your very eyes at Forbidden Door, mate. I don't know which of those would be your Sophie's choice. But yeah, outside that, they've said MJF's appearing, and obviously, we're continuing on in the Aragon ballroom, which I will say lost a little bit of its luster watching it with Collision, because like as small a building as that is, it can give you a great atmosphere, but when the atmosphere is bad, it's really obvious, and I felt like it was a bit obvious on Collision this week. So hopefully, like say, the big title match and those other things on Dynamite bring people back.
That's it. In many ways, they'll think of this residency being a success if they get some buzz back, and it's almost like, well, we'll leave Chicago on that good high note, but you put together a Collision card like this, and it's not going to get people buzzing. It's not going to be the kind of. It's almost like at that point it feels like a contractual obligation. So.
But Dynamite looks great. It really does. I'm excited. I'm excited for what's coming forward. You know, All Out's on the horizon, Forbidden Door's on the horizon, and I plan on taking an hour and a half of the weekend show talking about that Dynamite main event and just giving Matty 20 minutes to talk about SummerSlam. That'll be the yin and yang of Grapple this week.
He watched the intro and the promos. I can just say that in advance before the show's even taken place.
The entrances, as well. That's what I get analysis of, isn't it? I might ring you on your phone, mate. If you're on your way to Turkey already, you can just jump in on the video.
Oh yeah, I reckon I'll be able to do. Yeah, would I be? Yeah, I would have just arrived at that stage. I'd have been in there on the way to the hotel.
He'll love that.
She'll absolutely love it, mate. Honestly, she loves nothing more than that.
We'll miss Grapple Charlie. We need him. It's the important stuff. Yeah.
Oh, he'll fucking do run-ins. Like that lad loves a run-in in there as well. He's worse than bloody MVP for that type of stuff, for butting in. You've brought it up there on screen. We were talking earlier about stadiums that aren't quite full and how do you get around it. Well, all in Texas, final count, 27,245, according to WrestleTix there. And by God, what a brilliant job they did, considering that number, considering the size of the stadium and what they made that production look like. Pretty incredible when you think about it there as well. And they've got some nice photos up in there as well at the main time. There was someone on here as well. It says that 1,910 tickets were given away via VetTix to veterans in the area there as well.
So what? We do it too.
Yeah.
You know, is what it is. Yeah. We had it over here, you know, blue light cards. I got 8 for the last All In. So, you know, you got to take advantage of that. I mean, what do you think about that as a final number? Like 27,000? I thought they might creep to closer to 30, but I mean, it's still a lot. It's obviously not as many people as SummerSlam, which I'm going to hear all about on on Thursday. But it's massively impressive, and that was something like under the Unreal. Cody was like, "Yeah, we're doing a stadium show for Elimination. We're doing arenas, and we're doing stadiums for like Elimination Chamber now. How far have we come?" And it's like, "Yeah, true. That's true. 3 years ago, was just arenas, wasn't it? They weren't doing these stadiums for the B shows, and they deserve credit for doing that now, and it clearly works for their model. And I think, yeah, AEW deserve credit for, in a low period, hitting that number. It's a gigantic number in the grand scheme of things.
It is a gigantic number, and more importantly, they made it look like it was a lot more. If someone had told you that was 40-odd thousand, you'd have believed them. And you really would have gone, yeah, just on first viewing. And then actually you see 27, and it sounds disappointing by comparison. That's still a belting number. And because of the deal they got with Arlington, they got that stadium on the cheap. So it wouldn't have been... trust me, the staging and other things like that would have been expensive, but they made this look like a mega show. And that was the important thing. And it's that perception is really important as well. Rather like the perception about Mercedes Moné belt collecting. Well, she's got 2 more into the mix as well. She went to Poland after Wolverhampton there as well. She captured...
What a 1-2 combo.
What a 1-2 combo there. And I'm assuming the Woolly Bully was there as well at the same time. Mortos. That's an Andy Ogden phrase. I love that one. She captured the Primetime Wrestling Women's title and the Bestia Wrestling Women's Championship, an independent show in Poland. It was in Kozlo. Defeated Diana Strong there as well. And this is after she defeated Sapphire Reed at Summer Sizzler on the Friday in Wolverhampton there as well. So now she holds, if you're keeping count, the TBS Championship, the Owen Hart Foundation title, Rev Pro, Undisputed British Women's title, CMLL World Women's Championship, European Wrestling Association Women's title, Primetime Wrestling Women's title, and the Bestia Wrestling Women's Championship. She'll end up with the New Japan Strong title back there as well, and even possibly the IWGP one in there as well at the same time. But it's very impressive.
There you go. She looks good as she jokes about getting through TSA. I believe she enjoyed that flight. I'll bring it up here, but yeah, we were joking, obviously, of her getting her a Walker's Sensations being a crisps of choice while she was in the UK. Apparently, on a flight back to America, this is the real "I'm finally" story. Apparently, she was sat next to a lady from Egypt, she says here on Twitter, and we're both discussing how terrible the food is in the UK with the UK flag there. I'd say Heresy JP, but is she wrong? I don't know. All we got evidence on is that she had a pack of Walker's Sensations, which I feel like should have bumped us up a few notches. We should have got some credit from old Mercedes there. Do you reckon she had a Red Wings breakfast while she was over? Do you think that put it over the edge? I don't know what it was.
She needed to go to that sort of like weird fusion restaurant that's around the corner that does like curries and kebabs and stuff like that. Do you know the one I mean? The one with the pool table.
I know. You enjoyed that a few times.
Massive feed for 20 quid. That's where she should have been as well in there. Or there's a jerk chicken place that's up the road that had a stand. It's a few years now.
Oh, Will's recommended that before. Yeah, good chance. Yeah. Issues with the Sensations, by the way. This has been a great show with the video. It was Mercedes Moné with a packet of Sensations around. And as you pointed out, JV, a big packet as well, Yeah. Impressive stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The problem is like we were saying before on the weekend show, does she have a club card? Does she have a Nectar card? Probably not. So she's paying full whack for that. And she probably thinks, oh, £3, that's fair enough. Fucking shocking on it. Jack's Cafe Bar. And it is probably a front for drugs.
Andy says, if you're eating her Weatherspoons, then you have to food the shite, which I'm certain she did as well. Much like a lot of people would. Good segue into obviously talk a little bit about the weekend. Obviously, Gareth and Matty were there in person for those shows. I was hoping to get Gareth on Grapple Live, but I think we'll have him on next week or another weekend in future. And Matty's going to be on the weekend show, obviously, so he can give his version of events. Although, like I say, we did talk to Gareth a bit on Sunday. It sounded like he had a cracking time in Wolverhampton, and notable show from Rev Pro this weekend as well. Obviously, the Mercedes appearance being one thing, and keeping the belt, which is angering the haters. We can obviously talk a little bit about that, but the thing that seemed to be sending people absolutely wild in Wolverhampton was obviously Gabe Kidd and RKJ, Freudian slip, and Michael Oku, and the reactions to that match, which was funny because like that match was taking place in our group chat that we've got with a few other heads who might watch a Brit Rest show or two, were kind of shitting on the match, and then everybody you hear from who was there in person tells you how fucking amazing it was, to the point where I'm not sure I can share it here because it was a personal video, but like there's a video of Matty losing his. Maybe you can share it of him losing his shit when RKJ beats Mike Loki. That's what it's all about, folks. It's the real reactions in the building, contrary to all the other things I always say. But yeah, it does feel like it was one that split people. But yeah, the people in the building fucking loved it, and I enjoyed it watching it back on the VOD. I think the sound felt like it was a bit better watching the VOD version versus popping my head into the live stream on Sunday as well. But yeah, everybody who's there, you mentioned Grapsiclops, everyone should check out Andy and the lads, or a couple of the lads and some run-ins. Full review of events Rev Pro over the weekend, in fact, with the Sheffield show as well. But yeah, felt like one of those Michael Oku epics, as what a lot of people seem to be saying in the building. And yeah, for me, it was watching it back like a surprising moment. RKJ is now the Rev Pro champion. There's a question there about what's happening with Michael Oku and what his future is. Genuinely got no scoop on that. I don't believe you do either. So we'll just wildly speculate instead. But yeah, the way they laid the match out, adding the juice to it as well, and obviously the near falls very much being bit on, and it was great again seeing some of the lads in the background very much biting and jumping into those near falls. It was a great 30-minute, very typical of Michael Oku, proper main event match. And yeah, despite everything, it felt like a big moment. RKJ winning the belt, and yeah, maybe he can push on as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was the big sort of like almost the big takeaway, is how much more refreshed RKJ felt as a result of this, because people have been very down on him for quite some like a long period of time.
Yeah, and it felt an inevitability. He'd be the one who beat Oku, but that was 18 months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it felt like it was almost like we got to this match. I don't know, it'd been shoehorned in. But they got to it in a way it was like, okay, wasn't quite seeing that coming. But it does then, I think the big question from this as well is like, okay, that leads then to RKJ versus Shah Samuels, which you've got a more obvious heel face dynamic if you're going to go in that direction, for getting for Shah to retire, which I kind of expect that to be. But also for Michael Oku, looking at the timing of this, he loses his title here, and he has the send-off match at the anniversary show, but appears on Forbidden Door as being part of like Rev Pro, as part of like a British representative. That's the things that and I don't have any like insight necessarily into it, but that feels like a kind of like quite a, like that feels quite likely. That feels quite plausible, I should say, for this. So, and I have to confess, I need to go back and see this. It sounded great from what people had said. I mean, like, for you, did you like? I mean, I know that was it easy 5 stars for people who were there live. Gareth loved it. Like, he appeared to like love the whole show as well. But it's like it certainly added. It felt like this show like a good bit of juice to Rev Pro when it kind of needed it going into the anniversary shows.
It was like a lesser version of like the Osprey match, and I don't mean that as a slight. It just in the way they did it, the way they bled. Literally, but the way they bled the mirror into it and used the drama with her, and kind of like it was one of those everything matches, they're literally building on building. And it's a big match like this where the title change is taking place. Like, you want everything, you want the bloodshed, you want the big stupid high spots, but there was clearly a thought through it as well of like this being Michael Oku's kind of last stand, and RKJ kind of trying to bullshit his way to victory, but in the end kind of really being the better man, and getting a really like strong victory as well. Like, there was a clear purpose and thought behind what they want going forward and what RKJ is going to be going forward. So yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was a really, really strong match, one of those big move kind of killer matches. Like, again, if I was there live with it, I'd give it a 5. Still probably not, but I might have gone closer. Watching at home, I'd go like 4. And that's fine. I think that's a really fucking good match for especially a Brit Res match there as well, in front of a great crowd in a great venue. Like I say, Starworks in Wolverhampton. I'm so glad Rev Pro running that, no one else. Like, that's the place. So that's the company for this place.
Hangar.
And hopefully, was it the Hangar? I keep saying all at the Starworks. Yeah, it's the Wolverhampton in general. It's the place for like a Rev Pro to be in, to because it's, you know, it was always that great weekender in wrestling if you take the horrible stuff out of it. And, you know, yeah, I think with a promotion like that running it and being able to bring in big names like they did here and do big moments and big matches like it was the perfect setting for this as well. It was, you know, and everyone there, which like maybe that gives away why the crowd weren't so into it earlier on. You sometimes get that with your traveling Oku match. You sometimes get like, you know, he's more over in London, shouts people all say, but they were all in it by the fucking end. And like, again, that match alone, as well as Mercedes and the other stuff on the show, you know, I think made it very clear that a lot of people who were there are going to be very much returning customers whenever they choose to run Wolves going forward. And obviously, you got the shows coming up there as well. So just a gigantic win for them, really. And people saying here, obviously, Graps and Claps, Andy saying here, obviously, that RKJ can pull off a suit and looks like Leon versus Oku. And again, it was hinted at very much on the commentary, which was talking it up that, you know, Leon is planning on going for the Rev Pro title. You know, with all the publicity he's getting at the minute, and obviously the AJ Styles stuff in TNA, you could go from Leon Slater and Oku to Leon Slater and RKJ, and like maybe that's what it is. RKJ is the heel, you know, passes that on to Leon Slater, the babyface, and he's like the next champion. But yeah, obviously we've got Crystal Palace on the way as well, where they could do Oku, Leon, and in the meanwhile, all of a sudden, there you go. There's 3 huge matches you can do as well. And yeah, obviously they're with them returning to Wolverhampton October time, is it? Fantastic Mania they're doing, of course. Yeah, Mystico on there as well. Like, yeah, I think a lot of people are making that trip. Like, it's always been how many wrestling promoters tried to run the Midlands. I'm like, it's the middle of the country. It's the greatest thing ever. Everyone's going to come from down south and up north, and then it never works out. Fight Club Pro had it for a while, but I really think Rev Pro could have it. And yeah, this match was a great tempo one to put in this venue.
And it also helped that they buffeted this match by having Mercedes Moné and Naito and Bushi. Well, Naito, let's be honest, not so much Bushi. Just being able for them to make their appearances.
I saw that. It was like it was an entrance, and that was the main thing. You got to see they got to see the lads. I'm sure they sold a shit ton of merch. Like that's the
which. If their job is to get people in the door, they go for that, but they come away talking about RKJ Oku and other such people. I mean, like that's no bad thing. I don't think that would be too much of an issue there as well. And it appears to be that Mercedes Moné likes working. She likes these tours. Is
that what you? Because you said you saw some of the show live. Is that what you saw? Was it Mercedes?
I saw Trent Seven. No, I didn't see that. I saw like Trent Seven versus.
You saw Matty, by the way, and apparently said hello to him. That Matty was shattered. Got a picture with him.
Really?
You know the star is in that relationship. Is that funny?
Oh fuck yeah! I saw Trent Seven versus TK Cooper with Chuck Mambo turning heel, like at the beginning of it. So I was like watching it, and I was keeping an eye out for the lads. And then there was just so many other mad family things.
What do you think of the heel turn? For someone who Chuck Mambo's always been a heel.
It's interesting because they've been almost laying the seeds down. He's going to be retiring, so it's a different change. It's a change of dynamic, which I don't necessarily have a problem with. And them taking out Trent Seven along the way is something to do, and that's the place where you're going to do it as well, Wolverhampton. So I don't mind. It's not like I had any sort of like mad love necessarily for TK Cooper and Chuck Mambo, although I've always felt as a team that they are like they have come a long way from where they were. So if you have them, like if your job is to try and build up like kind of like a nasty pair of bastards, just do that. I'm not averse to them doing things like that as well. So yeah, good stuff. I thought it was a good heel turn. And like I say, just the level of work they put into this show with the promos and the little videos they put out there. They also had like a recap video. It was like Dave Bradshaw and Andy Quilden sitting down and talking about it afterwards. That's the kind of stuff.
I thought that was Gideon Gray for about 15 minutes until I was like, oh, that's not him, is it? He's not posh. I think that's Dave Bradshaw. And then I figured
he really isn't posh.
Obviously, I checked into the live stream while it was going on. It was early hours here just to see how everyone was getting on the night, looking on slightly jealously. But I did, in the end, went back and watched like the top 2 matches. There isn't much to say about the Mercedes match, really. I thought.
How long did it go?
The Sapphire Reed was fine. It was short. It was like 10 minutes. If it was longer than that, I'd be shocked. Maybe a little bit longer than that. Maybe more like not quite 15, but somewhere in the middle. But yeah, Sapphire Reed looked good enough. Mercedes was. the gigantic star out there who was obviously soaking in the atmosphere and loving being there. And I'd hope if she doesn't love the UK, she at least loved the atmosphere of like the show and the Wolverhampton atmosphere, and maybe Wolverhampton in general. Maybe she went over the road to the Star Works there as well. But yeah, it was fine. It was a match. Mercedes leaned heel a little bit, but people clearly wanted to cheer her. So it was a bit of a weird kind of thing. But yeah, Safia Ray played their part well enough. That's about as positive I could probably say.
I think the job was for her to get some name recognition, and she's able to get that name recognition. And I think that and that's really what it should be. I mean, in some ways, if you have Mercedes Moné going there against Lizzie Evo, I just think that's what it's going to be until you get round to a three-way where she loses it. And I think she surely will be appearing at Crystal Palace as well. Like that feels like it'd be a bit of a no-brainer.
It'd be the big show's like obvious, isn't it? And obviously, she's gonna be there when she can make it work, and that's the trade-off, isn't it, of getting a Mercedes in and putting your belt on her. But you can see the positives there of what it brings, and I'm sure a lot of people on that building were only there because she was announced, and it's a unique position that Rev Pro are in that they can use her like that.
And when do you get to see stars like that in? And it's quite a big venue. Don't get me wrong, like physically big, but you're close up. There's only you and 1,000 other people.
Exactly. A lot of the pictures and videos I saw, it was like Jesus. I think Hamlet's cousin sent him one, and it was like he's meters away from Mercedes and mark it out for that, which is brilliant. You love to see it. And people will be the same. It's a different type of fan, but I think people will come out for Mystico. Will he sing the song? I'm not sure, but getting to see Mystico in a great party town like that isn't a great town in general. Sorry, Will Curling, but there is there's a good argument for that, and I think there will be people will come out in spades.
And also a shout out for the Sunday show where I think it was Andy's mate Davey who was singing that Booshi Bing Nang Na Bing Bong Billa Billa Bing Bong. They were singing that song for him as well to carry on the theme of Japanese wrestlers being left entirely fucking bemused by what's sung British. Like when
maybe I don't miss Brit after all.
Yota Tsuji. I don't mind some of those. If they're funny, when it's Andy and Jeff doing it, I'm all right with it.
Only them, no one else. That's me rule, and I'm sticking to it. But yeah, there you go. So yeah, hope everyone who went had a great time. Like I say, we'll get Matty's live thoughts and hopefully get Gareth on record on it as well at some point, as well as talking the cracking night out. Apparently the all which went on to the early hours too. But that's part of the experience. It's why you go to Wolverhampton. It's not just for the wrestling. Sometimes it gets in the way, but not maybe not necessarily here. But yeah, there you go. That took place this weekend as well. And we're mopping up quickly. We've also got slipping further and further down the run sheet, JP. We've got the G1 Climax. Just a little thing called the G1 Climax that's also been taking place over this weekend. Where's your interest level, mate? Where you're at this point?
So I find I'm all right with it, and I binged a fair bit of it today. Just in order to do a bit of a catch up. There was other things that I hadn't seen, and I did see some. I've not seen stuff that is really big blow away matches. I thought Shingo Takeshita was very good, as I would have expected it to be. I don't think I'd go above 4 stars on it, and I'm probably being quite generous necessarily about that. But I thought it was very good, as you would expect it to be. And my interest lies mainly in which of the young guys are being pushed at any one time. For the most part, like watching someone like Rohei Oiwa beating Tanahashi, which is notable because I watched him lose to Finlay, and I thought that was and it feels very much on those sorts of shows like it's very clear it's the retirement tour. He's not going through to that next stage. It just doesn't feel like, and nor should he. I just don't think he's necessarily capable of being able to do that. I saw a really good Callum Newman Yuya Uemura match as well. That I thought that was really good. I thought Zack Sabre Jr. versus as you can hear Charlie just screaming his fucking lungs out in the background here. What was it? It was ELP versus Zack Sabre Jr. and I thought they had a good match. But I find most of my interest goes on Yota Tsuji, Oleg Boltin, who is Raw. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, and he fucks
Saw
up
a bit of that the last couple of days with him.
Yeah.
What was the match where he just landed on someone's head? Who was that? It was today.
Was it Yota Tsuji?
I think it was Yota Tsuji,
he tried to do the carry, he had him in a fireman's carry on the top rope and tried to do
and he was supposed to counter, I think. He just didn't quite make it. Yeah. It was ugly.
It is. It was ugly for that. But I think that's where they've just got to go with this. Is they've got to view this G1 for the whatever booking change they've had to make because of Gabe Kidd, and it will have ruined a lot of stuff. The primary focus should be we're just going to go with a group of young lads for the most part in those semi-finals, finals, and the playoff matches, and therefore there's an element of I don't really know who's going to win this because it feels like if you had Oiwa versus Yu Yamura, they could go either way. I know that logic will probably say Yu Yamura is a little bit further ahead, but why not? I think that's where the drama is for me. It's just that from a match quality perspective, there's stuff in it that's good without it being great. I don't know how you feel about it. And it's interesting looking at the standings as well. Like, I mean, you look at that B block, like after day 7, 4 people on 6, 3 on 4, couple on 2, Gabe Kidd on 0, and obviously he's not in the tournament as well. And then Suji winning block A, and then a load of people on 6 and 4 on 4. So,
but you're going to say the grapple pick'ems. I don't know if Connor can tell us who's in there. We don't need the full ones. Who's winning right now? Is it me? Probably not. Is it JP? Maybe. Is it coin flip? Who knows? That's been my most interesting, obviously, since we last recorded. There hasn't actually been much, has there? Obviously, we had which is Saturday and Sunday with the shows, but like there's only a couple of A block matches on one day and a couple of obviously with the B block and obviously with the injury, less matches on that block as well. So there's really anything really to get into. Like I say, Yosusuji Oleg Bolton was bowling ugly, but I agree. There's something there with Oleg and Yosusuji. It's kind of like it's like watching like the World Cup. Like I'll pay attention to like the England games, despite the whole Scouts not England thing. I'll pay attention to the Yosusuji matches because I want to see him do well. So I mean, it was ugly, but it was memorable. That was fine. Callum Newman beating David Finlay, genuine, like felt like an upset. That was a good moment, and they've been doing a few of those with Callum Newman, so that tells you where they are with him. Sonada Taichi was Sonada fucking bullshit and interference and nonsense. He's one of them now. He's just evil 2.0. So you got a lot of that in there. Speaking of which, Evil and Yu Yamura, I don't even know why I watched it, mate, because what did I expect? Why? Of course, Dick Togo and fucking Bad Luck Fale and all kinds of 67 people getting in the ring for the heat. Terrible, really bad. And Roy Hoyoiwa beating Hiroshi Tanahashi again. Tanahashi's been doing a lot of that, maybe arguably too much, but felt like at least a moment, but with diminishing returns for Hoyoiwa. So like that was all I could say about that day. And yeah, the other day of the weekend, Kuroto Khan Yoshihashi was a match. ZSJ and LP was good. There's just something about LP that he's very indie at the minute. I don't know what it is. It's almost like he's just gone, fuck it, I'm going to do all the moves. I'm going to be that wrestler. And Zach tried to pull him into his kind of match, but I'm not sure. It was a bit of a clash of styles for me. I didn't love it. Ren Narita Shota Umino was bland on toast. That's what you kind of get with those lads on most days, to be honest. But let's say bad days to be charitable. And Takeshita Shingo was very good, but not match of the year G1. Massively. I think people are talking that up because, and maybe it's a positive, it's standing out amongst the crowd of like, what else would you say is the match of the tournament so far? And it's like a 3.75 star match for me that these two could do in their sleep. But there's better versions of. Plenty of time at being the main event, but it felt like there was another gear they could have gone to, and maybe that's where Shingo is at this point. But Takeshita continues to be over, and that's great to see. And good to see him get the win too. So we had that too. But kind of a bit blasé. My kind of thoughts on G1 this weekend. I think I can just talk on my own personal interest level. I can feel it waiting, but I'm trying to stick it out. But some of these undercards are probably going to be getting a skip by the time we get to next week.
Oh Christ, yeah. Like, there'll be bits of it. I will pick and choose individual matches, and it'll be more or less based on, okay, I think these two wrestlers could have a decent match, and just to see the dynamics of it. In some ways, will we forgive a lot of the general meh feeling of some of these cards where it delivers where it has to deliver, and it's those last 3 days, and that's where it needs to deliver. Needs to deliver that final day, those playoffs, semi-final, final. That's where he needs, like, if he does that, and then we come out and we start thinking, okay, like, there's a couple of potentially new stars that they've got here, like, which is a long time fucking coming, then really, that is the best case scenario they can hope for. And if people are just basically keeping their powder dry until then and going, right, you go balls to the wall for those ones, because it needs it. If they don't do it, like, Jesus Christ, given some of these crowds, like, they've got to be worried, because it used to be a point in time. I mean, I was seeing stuff like Tokyo Joshi Pro drew double what they did at that Ota War Gymnasium show that we spoke about on Weekend Show that did 1,300. What the fuck? Like New Japan with the brand awareness. And
unbelievable, isn't it?
How is it in that position? Would have been unthinkable. It would have been, for the most part, they would have been selling out all of these places not that long ago. And the answer isn't to go to the old lads. Like, that isn't long term. And this is the way they've got to view it. And I think sometimes they don't view long term because they're not in the rudest of health. But they've got to view it as like, we've just got to set this, like, these are our guys. And there might be 6 of them, and they may not be sure. But you go with Tsuji, Oleg Boltin, Oiwa, Yu Yamura, Callum Newman, Takeshita, and bloody, I don't know, Gabe Kidd when he's back. That's something like of just a crop of guys that can go, right, we're going to hang our hat on these lads in the future. And I not mentioned Zach in there as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only option they've got for me.
That's it. Well, there we go. There's your G1 recap. You kind of just say Eric Marcotte is leading of post wrestling fame with JP close behind. And here's the great news, JP. Apparently, I'm still taking part. Connor says, which it seems I'm doing even worse than I thought I was. But oh well.
Everyone's a winner.
Maybe I can come back. We'll see. But yeah, go on, JP. Do it for the graphics.
Go on, coin flip. I'm not even cheering myself on it. I'm 100% behind coin flip here.
There you go. Well, there you go. There's the G1. And yeah, is there anything else you've been watching this week, JP? Anything else you managed to get in? We managed to get a fucking lot in this spotlight. I'm shocked. Obviously, you're off the cinema now, aren't you? To see a Fantastic Four. We'll be £1.20, mate, but I'm sure you'll have a great time.
I'll be getting it cheaper than that. I'll be paying the lad finishes work at 9.
Inside
the screening begins at 9. So it's just a case of me getting myself to Oxford and changing out of this fucking sweat-ridden t-shirt I've had on all day. But outside of that, that's me. I think a lot of the week was taken up, like I say, with this, and I'm pushing it for it to be the title, The Good, the Bad, and the Terry.
I think it's got to be.
It has to be for that one on there as well.
Seems lighter than the other words we could use, so yeah, fair.
I think you'll get in trouble with all Spotify's a Freudian slip, with all podcast providers if you just have a title of Terry Cunt or something like that. People tend to get funny about stuff like that.
That could be good, to be fair. I like that. It could be. But yeah, there you go. Obviously, you're up there, and obviously we won't have you on the weekend. A lot of shows.
No, I'm on my holidays.
So you're up there. Have a great time. Extra empty suitcase for. I'm going to be taking an empty suitcase to Tokyo. I imagine you're going to be taking an empty suitcase for hooky football top. So we get to see them next week.
Hooky football tops, hooky pants, hooky Turkish soaps, hooky Turkish scrubbers, and whatever else I decide to buy.
Careful.
But the key word is hooky in all of this. I don't want authentic. I'm not fucking interested.
Well, speaking of hooky scrubbers, I'll be over in Thailand next week. So this is my last show from Vietnam for a Spotlight. Although I will be on this week with obviously tomorrow. We could do the live with SP3.
They do a war with Cambodia, for fuck's sakes. I was reading.
I know, and there was like a mass shooting. Me talking about them being like, there's no crime. It's the safest place on earth. Mass shooting this week, and also they're at war. But I think Trump has broken peace, JP. So nothing could possibly go wrong. It's going to be fine. So all things go to plan. I'll be in Thailand from Saturday, but yeah, I'll be obviously tomorrow live with SP3 for a little grapple live. You haven't been tuning in. Good fun, interactive. Send your questions in if you've got anything for SP3. And as it is a pay-per-view weekend, I allowed Matty to make a Thursday weekend show. Sorry, Simon. So three shows in a row, as we tend to do on the big pay-per-view weekends. And yeah, me and Matty will be previewing SummerSlam on Thursday, and then hopefully reviewing it on Monday if I am settled in my new condo over in Bangkok for a few weeks by then. And hopefully, like Simon did apparently at the train station today, hopefully I'll run into Hamlet over there as well. So yeah, still be plenty of content coming.
Oh, mate, hard life as well. I will try and get a news dump in tomorrow as well. I've got appointment in the morning, but I'll get
the news dump now. The news dump drops. The JP news dump. How about that? JP's news dump. The JP dump. We'll call it the JP dump. That reminds me of Terry's story from earlier on tonight.
Well, it reminds. I was going to say like Andre the Giant. I can't compete with that. Even no matter how many fucking kebabs I'd eat in the process. Like, oh no.
Very true. But yeah, Matty working his way out of reviewing Collision. That's what that boy does. I forgot about that. It's a Thursday Collision, isn't it? Well, we'll be previewing it anyway. But yeah, on top of that, obviously, Bash at the Beach 96 will be coming out at the weekend, being a pre-record with me on my travels and JP as well. But based on the King of the Mountain feedback so far, I think it was a corker of a show.
Brilliant stuff.
And then, before you know it, we'll be into August with our AJ Styles phenomenal show. Still putting the last matches together for that one. Lucha Underground, Simon's King of the Mountain, and hopefully a Grapple Lads as well. So plenty going on across August. But yeah, on that note, thank you, of course, patrons and YouTube members, as always, for helping us keep the lights on. Thank you to our live patrons and live YouTube members for joining us live every week. And as well, our Kings and Queen of the Mountains, Conor Laughlin, Eddie Sarburns, Chris Platt, Carl Gack, Sophie Hitchcock, Simon Mulvaney, and Marty Ellis as well. But we will catch you all again on Grapple Live tomorrow night. See ya.
Bye.
Good night, all.
It was early there.
Where's that music gone? I've lost it. Yeah, you caught me off guard. Good night. Oh, I've hit all the wrong buttons. Cheers. That's what you get when you watch us live. Good night.